Good night. Good night to our panelists. Good night to all of our viewers. Good night to our brothers and sisters in Guyana and all of you in the diaspora. It's been a long day today, and we would like to alert you as to the state of play here in Guyana as we get into our panel discussion of the most recent happenings here with regards to elections 2020. Viewers would recall that as of yesterday, we had said that the PPP was in the lead for approximately 52,000 votes, and the PPP had determined that lead to be unassailable. As of this evening, Devon will put up our two statements on screen. As of this evening, unverified results that has been released to the public has shown that net the APNU AFC is ahead by approximately 8,000 votes net. That is after all regions have been counted by both sides or for both sides. In addition to this, so there has been a declaration of the Region 4 votes, and I wish to point out that this declaration is unverified. It has not gone through the verification process and therefore has not been signed and seen and accepted by the international community. As we speak, the international community has been in meetings with Mr. David Granger, President David Granger, and that meeting is ongoing, well, has finished. We are still awaiting the word from them as to what transpired there. The other telling thing that has happened as of this evening, and we report this with some degree of sadness, because we all care for each other's health, it would appear that Chairman of the Elections Commission, Madam Claudette Singh, is unwell. We are not sure as to the degree of her health in terms of how unwell or how well she is, but we know that she has basically been taken for medical attention. So that's where we are. So gentlemen in studios and to our viewers out there, I would like to, as we start this program, once again give credit to Nohar Singh and Globespan team, including our technical operator Devin Bissoon, for making this show possible. The state of play in Guyana is that as of yesterday afternoon, the PPPC was 52,000 votes ahead. That was before Region 4 was declared. As of this afternoon, after the declaration of Region 4, APNU AFC is approximately 8 votes ahead. That is the state of play. Gentlemen, your comments.
I mean, I don't have the statistics, but the last time, last year wasn't different.
Who's going to go?
You start now.
All right. Good night, everyone. Good night, Dr. Madhu. Good night to all the viewers of Globespan TV. You, Dr. Ramay, Ramarat. Yeah. Okay. Remember yesterday we were saying I didn't have the numbers. I don't have contacts on the GCOM like my colleague over here, Dr. Rose. So I didn't have the numbers, and I was imploring everyone to wait for the numbers. The only institution with authority about the numbers are, the only institution is actually GCOM. And a lot of hyperbolic statements were made that people should resign, people should go to jail, and all manner of things. So that's why it's always in the best interest of everyone. You are not the authority, you don't have the numbers, you don't have the facts, to wait for the facts, and then you can start making pronouncements. If those facts don't accord with some of your belief, then you can challenge those facts. That is exactly one of the points I was making to both, what's the guy's name? Yeah? Brian, and because Brian was saying put Mr. Bond in jail, and the other guy is saying, oh, they know this, and they're causing mayhem. So, again, I would just urge everyone to wait for the facts And then if you disagree with those facts, then you take legal action with recourse, peaceful recourse. And that's why I always like giving people space to follow their beliefs.
Brian, what's your comment with regards to the latest in terms of the polls? Forget last night's discussion. What's the latest, your comment on the latest count of polls that the unverified release of information is that the APNU AFC is 8,000 votes ahead? I wish to remind viewers that the statement of the signed statement from Region 4 has been released, but it is unverified because GCOM put a halt to the verification process since last night.
Well, my comments on those, well, those numbers, I mean, I don't know how those numbers were arrived at, but I trust GCOM. We trusted GCOM for all of the other numbers, so I guess I would have to trust them for this one too. And the state of affairs, well, in my view, I'm breathing a sigh of relief. I don't have to live 5 years with a doctor, Dr. Ali, this supposed doctor, because I'm not even sure if he's a doctor, because his very first step of his qualifications are questioned. So I'm breathing a sigh of relief. Sorry that is my feelings.
I would beg to differ from my friend here. Again, personality issues, it's something else, but facts are facts. The thing is, GCOM declared every region, verified each region the way the law says they should, except Region 4. Then Mr. Mingo, by his own way, and maybe that is supported by the CEO, I don't know, declaring a result that is unverified. I'm sorry to say this, but this is blatant rigging by a PNC clique that they have been accustomed to, and I am so ashamed of that. In 2015, I supported wholeheartedly President Granger when he won that election fair and square. What they are doing now tells me that they want to take us back to the dark ages. If that is what they want in Guyana, I believe the Guyanese population is ready to confront that issue. We hope it doesn't get to that. But Mr. Mingo, for him to do what he did, and for the chief executive officer to disappear, and then the chairman also disappear, seems to me to be a coordinated effort to get this process we're in right now as we are. It is sad for Guyana, it is sad for the country, and I'm so glad that the international community is there to see exactly what is going on. And I hope if GCOM want to stay with this result, then I don't think Guyana will have a very, very fair future.
So Charles, let's what's your view of the release of the unverified information? To viewers out there, we are hoping to be joined very soon by Mr. Timothy Jonas, Sanjeev Dattadin. Hopefully we can get Nandalal. We are hoping to get Mr. Ramjatan and a few others to join us as we go along the discussion tonight. Charles, back to you. Focus on those numbers for me. 8,000. Let us just presume. Charles, I ask you this question. If they were verified results and it said 8,000, what would your position be?
I would say, let's go for it. That's it. I would say President Granger has been re-elected, and the Guyanese people must respect that and honor the process. That did not happen. Listen, before we get sidetracked, from 1992, when the free and fair election was reappeared in Guyana, to this election, the PNC has never won Region 4 by that large amount. Never. Even when the most votes PNC got in any election was 42% of the votes. So to come now and say that they won this Region 4 by this huge amount that is unverified. The thing is, every SOP that was verified in Region 4, everyone agreed to it. There was no discrepancy. It was going so smoothly. Whatever the reason GCOM used to squash that process tells me that behind that they had the rigging process coming up. And this is rigging in front of our eyes. And this must not be what Guyana have to face for the next 5 years?
Maybe,
Yes, Dr. Ramharat.
all right. I just want to throw this out there. My hope during this election was that you would have had a minority government, and you would have had a parliamentary situation where the majority in parliament would be forced to work together. And obviously the second hope was that you would have had an election that was free and fair. Listening to Charles and the gentleman next to him, I don't know him that well. I think his name is Brian. It shows how, and I think this is really a microcosm of the division that exists. Well, okay, but it also shows the division that exists in Guyana. It's a microcosm of what exists. And I think you're being very disingenuous when you're focusing on the numbers and not focusing on the process, right? So that's the first point. So let me just say what's going to happen here. The hope, and this is the point I was trying to make to Tim last night, is that you have to address the issue of constitutional reform. But more importantly, and this can be something you can address at the same time as you address constitutional reform, is this whole concept of the ethnic divide. That has to be addressed. And there are many ways you can actually do that. I'm heartened by the fact that the Amerindians are actually waking up, and I think Schumann is doing a very good job to mobilize that section of the population. Really? And I don't necessarily believe that, if you have one party representing the Amerindians, another party representing, let's say, Indians or Africans, that to me, it's also an opportunity, and we have to look for opportunities when it doesn't seem like it exists here. But this is what I think is going to play out, and I think Charles is absolutely correct when he said that this was a concocted plan. This plan was in place, and APNU, AFC knew what they were doing when they went into this election, right? It was planned. I mean, no sane person, and I say this very clearly, no sane person looking at the events that occurred today would assume that these things are coincidental. These things were planned, and they were very well planned. So here is what is going to happen, and this is, in my view, what's going to play out. I believe once Mr. Granger is sworn in as the president of Guyana, he will proceed to institute a state of emergency. He will also try to control the media. He may try to control the internet, and I think you're going to see a decline in terms of participation. So my point here is that this is the point at which where things are happening very quickly, and I think the opposition, whoever the opposition are, and I'm not just saying it's the PPP. All of the other parties that are there, they have to make a concerted effort. They do have to make a concerted effort to kind of halt this drift into what is clearly a situation that is going to lead us into the wrong path. And I think it's important to also contact or mobilize forces outside the country. I know the international observers are there, but these are blatant, very, very blatant actions that are taken in the face of observers who are still in the country. And I think the coalition will also play it out and hopefully get those observers out of the country. So, let's not beat around the bush and talk about it as if, okay, this is a situation where, things are okay and things are going to be nice in the end. Before this program started, we talked about some events that may possibly take place in other parts of the country. But I think at this stage of the game, given what we have here, we have to start thinking outside the box. I think people need to come out in the streets. I think people need to call for economic boycott. I think they need to mobilize the United States, the ABCs, EU, because this is a situation that is going to drag us into a dark side. And we've been there before. So those are the points I wanted to make at this stage. But I think it's important to say those things and not try to paper it over and assume that, okay, we're going to be okay once in the next few hours, and we have to wait and see. That's not what because Guyana has a very checkered history.
Right. Thank you. Dr. Rose, your comments.
My comment is this. Let me say this from this step up one. I've never voted in Guyana. I've never supported any political party in Guyana. So my views are objective views as much as possible. Who wins it by fair means, I support that party. My view is that I'm a member of the PIP party. That's the party in power. Nothing else. Now the thing is this. I was informed, and this was an official information I got, that the ambassadors, the observers met with President Granger today and told him point blank that they do not accept Mingo's statement. They said they have the statement of polls, and they have GCOM, which corresponds with GCOM statement of polls. President Granger said he's going to think about this tonight. He's not been sworn in, and tomorrow morning, GCOM will make an official statement as to what the results are. They met with GCOM as well, and they told them, do not play games in this election. Too much is at stake. And the American ambassador made it very clear, in the Canadian ambassador, if this continues, then we'll have no choice than to pull back our support. So President Granger got the full blast from these people. We want to know. I was also informed that the Army chief has a copy of the statement of polls. And they said they're watching the situation carefully because they have been sworn to uphold the oath of office to maintain fairness in the country. So we don't know where they're going with that. But President Granger was told at this meeting that we don't accept Mingo's statement. It's right. Bloated, and that's where it lies now. So tomorrow morning, GCOM will make a statement, from what I was made to understand, and then the president will make a statement after that. I don't know what will be their statements.
So let me read the brief statement that came out of the international agencies, specifically ABCE countries.
Right.
America, of course, everybody know ABCE, right?
Canada.
Canada and Europe.
So, correct. So the following statement, I'm reading verbatim. The following statement is released on behalf of the British High Commission, Mr. Quinn, Canadian High Commission, Lillian Chatterjee, the Ambassador of the European Union, His Excellency Fernando Pons Canto, and the Ambassador of the United States of America, Her Excellency Sarah Ann Lynch. Based on our observation of today's GCOM proceedings at the Region 4 office and the fact that the full count was not completed, we question the credibility of the Region 4 results published by GCOM today. We urge the Guyana Elections Commission and all relevant actors to expeditiously complete the tabulation on the basis of the statement of polls. We call on all Guyanese to remain calm and patient, and for all leaders to exercise responsibility and restraint. So to your point, Dr. Rose, indeed a statement would have been released by the US, Canada, British and European ambassador. To our viewers out there and to our panelists here, I would like to just quickly capture the day's sequence for you. We have had it's been a very, very, very packed day. We have had a number of things going throughout the day, starting from last night. If viewers will recall, one night ago, the counting process came to a halt. Last night, the counting process came to a halt because the returning officers, GCOM staff, said they were tired. They could not continue the count. This was approximately midnight last night. The international observers as well as the opposition observers insisted that GCOM need to find people who are not tired to come and continue the work. Keith Lowenfield spoke to the media about it and said he is trying to get people. 2 hours later, he found somebody who came. Here is the sequence. They did 3 SOPs, 3, and that person claimed he was too tired to continue. He's calling off the process. He took out the flash drive, took away the computer, and went into another room. When they got through that door to him, he had allegedly, he had opened on the computer the database that contained the verified results. At that stage, Lowenfield promised that the entire 379 or 389 boxes would be re-verified. In other words, they're going to print everything out and let the parties. and that they were to restart at 9 this morning. It never restarted. So viewers out there, just to recap for all of you. So we had that early this morning. Immediately after that, you had a meeting where the Minister of Foreign Affairs basically, what's the right word here? She basically went and she commandeered space at GCOM to have a meeting with the international observers to tell them that she could take away their accreditation. She threatened that. To his credit, former Prime Minister Owen Arthur of Barbados took out his badge in disgust and said, here, take it. To his credit, Teeny Husty from the Bar Association spoke up and said, ma'am, you better take the exit now. Now here is what happens. The international observers have been threatened basically to either play the tune or shut up and go home. That happened this morning. After that this morning, we have received, and those videos are available. If you want, we can play them. We have received information that from ANUG that they heard of plans to have a swearing-in ceremony, notwithstanding the process not completed. Viewers, I wish to repeat, these are all things that happened during today. 7 hours ago, the process at GCOM had not yet resumed. Thereafter, we had a statement, a press meet between the press, of course, and Kemraj Ramjatan and Cathy Hughes, where Ramjatan said to the public that on election day, he deported 3 Russians who had some kind of subterfuge equipment. And he deported them because they were going to, national security was at stake. We, yours truly included, we immediately reacted that if national security is under threat, you do not deport somebody, you hold them for questioning, you investigate them. However, he said that he deported these guys, and that happened approximately 8 hours ago. He also alleged that he has recordings, or he has intelligence, is his word, of Bharat Jagdeo being in communication in Russian language with these people. What we do know is that for you to wiretap somebody's phone, you need a judge's order. I know because I was part of the drafting of that legislation. 8 hours ago today, we had a bomb scare at GCOM where the police went in and ordered everybody to evacuate the building, to get out of the place. The international observers and the other observers, the local observers, refused to leave. They said, if the building goes up, we are going up with it, but we are not leaving the SOPs unmanned and unwatched. 7 hours ago, the PPP released its own tabulation of all the SOPs across the country, of Region 4, across the region, and it published it all on its a website. That website has been shared with the public. In that website, they also have scanned copies of their SOPs signed by the various officers. 6 hours ago, APNU personnel posted photos of SOPs that they say they totally disagrees with what the PPP posted, and so APNU is claiming that the PPP would have released incorrect information. That is about 6 hours ago. 5 hours ago, GCOM process tried to get restarted, but nobody could meet together. Nobody knew where the main personnel were. Everybody was missing in action. 3 hours ago, I posted on my Facebook page a snapshot from Cathy Hughes where she is saying that the Russians basically tried to interfere with the elections. And that PPP hijacked ballot boxes that were supposed to come from the upper Mazaruni, and they brought in those boxes by boats owned and operated by PPP candidate. Mind you, viewers, none of these things are being ridiculed. There are allegations being made, and we must respect the allegations being made by each side. That is 3 hours ago. Then a little while ago, we shared the photograph of Honorable Owen Arthur and his disgust in terms of handing in his badge. Then we had a situation, this is more about 4 hours ago, where, remember, the entire verification process at GCOM has been halted. There's no verification going on. Yet, the returning officer, Mingo, comes into GCOM. This is the same guy that was ill yesterday. He comes into GCOM and said he's ready to make a declaration of Region 4 results. However, the entire GCOM, all the observers erupted in loud no, 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 and he was unable to voice his declaration, but it was deemed, Basil Williams said on record later, if you didn't hear his declaration, it doesn't mean that he didn't so declare. To everyone's amazement, indeed, it was deemed to have been a declaration, and they published and released to the public the statement of polls signed by Mr. Mingo. Note, the verification process was not complete. Let me put it in perspective. Guyana has 10 regions, administrative regions. 9 were declared after verification. The largest region of Guyana, with approximately 200,000, 280,000 voters, was not verified. Only 300, approximately 300 SOPs were verified. About 2 hours ago, we called on the international community. I myself posted on Facebook calling on the US president and the vice president and all the international community to please get involved and ask GCOM to verify the process. That, I must tell you, we are proud to say that that call upon the upon the US president and everything, it got about 1,000+ shares, because we said to everybody, share it until they see it. That is ongoing. It got over 1,000 shares as we speak, 1,017. As of tonight now, after the the declaration was made by Mr. Mingo, we got word that APNU operators have called on all their supporters to assemble at GCOM roadside in front of GCOM. That has happened. What immediately happened thereafter, celebrations started, because the words went out that the APNU, based on the unverified results, have declared that they have won by 8,000 votes. Viewers, this is what has happened today. The final thing I'd like to say is that the plot got even more worrisome, in that as of the most recent news, we have found that Madam Claudette Singh, and we are sorry to say this, Madam Claudette Singh has basically dropped ill. We do not know the state of her health. What we do know is that somehow or the other, the medical personnel were stopped from accessing her. And however, she is now under medical care. The final thing, the most recent to have happened, this is after Claudette Singh's illness, is that the international community has met with the President Granger and has insisted, and you see the photo there of the meeting with Mr. Granger, they have insisted that the verification of GCOM must happen before a swearing in. Simultaneously, the PPPC has sought an injunction demanding that only verified results must be released. That is where we are. I'm sorry to take so long, but it has been a real long day. That is where we are. Gentlemen, your comments. Dr. Rose, I'll go to you. Dr. Ramarax first.
Well, here's the thing. 2 things, right? This whole explanation you give and that entire scenario you present and those events that occurred today, it all points to the fact that some of these things are very concocted. I'll give you one example. Now, when you said that GCOM's chairperson fell ill, I hope she's okay, and I hope she can recover. But has anybody seen her? Has she made any any comment about all of those events that occurred in the last few days. So there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle here, Yog, that is missing, and we can't. And you should not be saying this also that she is ill, and because we don't know that for a fact. I hope that's not the case, and I hope she's well. But the events that you describe, including that event that has to do with the GCOM chairperson, points to something that we need to question. She needs to be in the public view. We need to see her. She needs to make a statement so we can ascertain what's going on, right? And I think that's crucial. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when we talk about, what is all of those things that are happening today, we also need to keep the focus on what is probably going to happen beyond this point, right? If we are saying that the numbers, we have one set of numbers from the PPP regarding Region 4, and we have another set of numbers from GCOM, it all means that the process has been fudged, right? That the process has not been done correctly. So therefore, we can't assume that in the future, from here on going forward, that there aren't anything else that's being planned. We have to assume that there are things that's going to happen. There are things that's being planned, and we have to address those things as best as we possibly can. But we can't take everything we say on the surface. And again, the point I'm trying to make regarding the the chairperson, I think those things have to be verified, because we have a series of events where things are happening, and they're happening very rapidly, and we do have to raise these questions, whether we like it or not.
The thing is that, again, and I got this from a senior personnel in Guyana, Claudette Singh, she's okay. She walked out of the building on her own, but in our office door, the inside knob of the lock was removed, and it was locked from outside. So there's no way she could get out until the police went in and opened up the door. So, but she indeed got out. Who did that? I don't know. Someone went in her office, where she was there, removed the inside knob, so she can't get out by herself. The other thing I want to issue here is this. Prime Minister Holness of Jamaica, apparently, Bruce Golden, the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, had an entanglement with the Minister, Dr. Cummings, Minister of Foreign Affairs, when he told her that, how can you force us to leave the country when I'm a CARIFTA or CARICOM resident? I could travel to any country. As long as I don't break the law, I can stay there. She said, well, if you don't leave, I will deport you. Bruce Holden Drew a strong statement represented that, and he said he's taking that to CARICOM for discussion, because Guyana has violated the principle of all-inclusive society in principle laws. So that is something, and he issued a stern warning to the Granger government as well, telling them that he will have to revise relationship with the government if you're going to insult a former prime minister like this. He was invited by the Organization of American States to go there to observe the elections. He's an independent body, an independent group, and to threaten him with deportation doesn't go well with him at all. So that's part two. Now coming back to the meeting President Granger had with these people, they told him point blank that your SOPs you received, the PP SOPs you received, all correspond with GCOM SOPs. And they said there's no way, as the statement said, they're abiding by the results put out by Mr. Mingo. They said we want everything to be verified. We have the numbers, and everyone knows the numbers. We want it to be verified. We are not here to take sides. We want fairness, free and transparent elections. And this is where President Granger agreed, saying he's going to reassess the whole situation tomorrow. GCOM will reassess the situation and go back to verified information tomorrow from what I just got the information here.
So Dr. Rose, just pause a minute.
Yeah.
Viewers, you can have a look at this video. Devin, can you rewind to the top of it when Tenny Houston was telling her that she could find her way out? This is the Karen Cummings meeting with the accredited international observer.
I know. He's coming.
Yes. I think you should stop.
Yes, so I
You're
will stop.
giving an avenue to
Yes.
exit.
Yes.
I
Yes.
suggest that
Yes.
you
Yes.
take that.
So I just pass it on to
How do you-
actually to know what you're doing, and just in case. And I thank you very much. No, I wouldn't do that. I just
take the weight.
no, I'm just posing.
No, but it comes across as intimidation, that you're trying to intimidate the observers when you speak about taking away accreditation.
All right, so I'm just happy that you're here and you're on some place. Let's leave with good spirits. I'm happy to see you. So you can see you for the first time. And just keep on doing your work. So the last word you're hearing from me is to continue doing your good job.
No, but then it doesn't take away from the fact that you made a threat that you were told to take away accreditation.
No, I'm telling you.
There is where Owen Arthur gives up his name.
I'm saying, I told you I wasn't in agreement with that. So please listen to me. I said I wasn't in agreement with it. Just give me another please listen to me. I said I wasn't in agreement of that. I was not in agreement. Why was that proper? But maybe I should take it back. Maybe I should take it back. Maybe I should take it back. I should take it back.
I speak on behalf of the concentration of people in the world.
Yes.
And I am not going to have, not leave the Commonwealth is respected by a threat to take away the medication of the Commonwealth. I just speak of the I'm going for it. I'm going to speak to the Commonwealth Secretary General shortly. She's willing to speak to me.
Yeah, he's
And I have a duty to her to report accurately. And if you cannot know, avoid speaking accurately.
Absolutely. I agree.
So that if you apologize, because I would tell you, no.
Hello.
Maybe take it away, but give you back. Because good people have never been listening yet. And if I will not take it.
All right, thank you. I'm coming out. Thank you.
There, she met with Golden. And that's where the confrontation started between that. I haven't seen that on tape. But the thing is, a stern rebuke came from Holness. And this doesn't augur well for what she said. I know Dr. Cummings very, very well. We communicate quite often. And I never know her to be this type of person. Very pleasant, lovely person to talk to. But this, I don't know what happened today. Something probably triggered this. I can't put any blame on her because she's my good friend. But I tried calling her after, but I didn't get any response from her. But I'll get her something later tonight or tomorrow. As I said, very nice woman, extremely nice. For this to happen to her today, I don't know what went wrong there. But another thing I want to mention about the meeting with President Granger, President Granger says that he will have to make some changes and make sure that the country is put first. This is what he promised those ambassadors, especially the Canadian ambassador who told him that we are not going to support this type of recklessness. You cannot ignore. As a matter of fact, the declaration made was only in Georgetown. Mingo said he's not concerned with the East Coast or the East Bank. And those are Region 4 territories. So they're saying that it was reckless and he should have said no to it, but he informed them that he was told of this late when Mingo submitted that report and he walked away without telling anyone anything. He said, "This is my report, take it," and he left. He's not doing any more verifications.
So Dr. Rose, Dr. Ramrak, you'll come in a moment. So the BBC also has carried the story, and on BBC, they're quoting Granger saying he's speaking to the US-based NGOs at the Carter Center. President Granger said, quote, "I am asking you to be patient. The chairman of the Elections Commission would make some form of declaration, but right now it is quite impossible," unquote. Dr. Ramara.
Well, regarding the Foreign Affairs Minister, I believe she did initially say that she would like the observers to leave. And I think that occurred initially before the discussion we saw on the tape. And then I believe that the coalition did issue a statement saying that they regretted that statement. So it shows the unprofessionalism and the lack of communication, between the minister and whoever else she's dealing with in the government.
Just one thing, Dr. Ramdarak. That statement came after Olney's statement, a very thorough statement issued against Guyana. And he told President Granger in plain terms, I will have to review our relationship because I'm not going to stand here and you insult one of our ministers and the former Prime Minister of Jamaica.
We get that information from.
Right. And just to add also, there was a statement
That's
from,
in the
I
paper,
believe,
that's published.
U.S.
Read
Homeland
Jamaican
Security
Gleaner.
also
Yes.
did make
Read
reference to the
Jamaican
fact
Gleaner,
that
published this afternoon.
I'm just asking because
there's
Yeah.
irregularities taking place with
I've
the
seen all the papers.
election process.
Because they're right for
Yeah.
three papers.
So gentlemen and panel, if you're going to talk to each other, we're not going to hear anyone.
Right,
the
right,
voices come over the
Well,
microphones anyhow.
I had a question to Dr. Rosal. He has a lot of information. I was like, where did you get that information from? Because a lot of the things you said, I've not read or heard of. One, for example, he was just talking about is that Mr. Holness, is it? Holness?
Golden of
Golden,
Jamaica.
Prime Minister Golden's information. And whenever he quote a source, Jamaican Gleaner, so I can't argue with that because I haven't read it. But regarding some of the things that were just transpired, I want to say regarding the minister's conduct, I wouldn't agree with that, but somehow it was retracted or some comment was made to correct that. That's not, I would say, forthcoming for a minister of that level. I mean, to be talking to CARICOM colleagues like that. I wouldn't agree with that. And
Well, remember, Cleveland, one question I have for you. Election has been completed. Is that person still a minister?
well, nobody else has been sworn in yet.
No,
only the
she's still a
Constitution
minister.
only allows the president to remain president until a new one is
Well,
sworn in.
we haven't
Not
gotten there
everybody.
yet. We haven't gotten there yet. So I guess they're still functioning.
We haven't got the official results. Cleveland is right.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet. There's still a bridge to cross.
So,
Hold on. Let me make from a number of things that were said. I think we get a little bit of overheated rhetoric in terms of what has been transpiring on the ground. I know a lot of this emanates from suspicion on both sides. People don't trust figures. For example, yesterday, I think what's the guy name?
Which one?
Region
Brian
4
Max?
guy?
Brian-
No, the Brian 4 guy, Region 4 guy who got sick. What's his name?
Oh, Mingo.
Mingo.
Mr. Mingo.
I've been reading yesterday. Mr. Mingo was paid by the PPP.
Come
Yeah,
on.
these are the kind of things I'm saying. A lot of overheated rhetoric.
Facebook.
Yes, he was paid, so he got sick. He fell out. Today, you're hearing the PPP side and others are saying he's not trusted because he's making declarations that have not been sanctified. You know, so these are the kind of things, because we have an environment where there's serious mistrust. So I would say, going forward, let's wait. But I want to make one more point on Dr. Rose's comment regarding what was said to President Granger. Of course, there was some conversation between him or the international community and him, but not to the extent as Mr.
tone.
Rose put it. The tone is not what I saw in that
Not respectful
statement.
at all.
So exactly. So I'm saying we need to be cautious about what we hear and what we read.
Cleveland, one would recall, and feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong, but we are queuing up a video of Barajagdeo speaking to Enrico Woolford. But Cleveland, in 1992, the Carter Center basically told the incumbent, concede, let the country move on. Let's go to the video, David.
Desmond.
Excuse me.
You see if it tallies with it, and then you come to declare the results. But they think that they will get away with this.
But Mr. Jagger, in 1997, a similar thing happened.
I don't know
with
about
Mrs. Jagan.
That was at the level of the commission, not the RO. Not the RO level. The RO has to go through a statutory process. The statutory process says that you have to sit with the party reps, go through the SOPs, it mentions that in the law, and then you tabulate the results.
Did that happen in 97 before it went up to the commission with Mrs. Jagan?
Because I believe so. The thing is that
But that's how you became president eventually.
Yes, but Mr. Wolford, I know where you're coming from. You're here.
No, it doesn't matter where I'm coming from, Mr.
But the
President.
thing is that you ask every
I'm
single
asking
observer,
you what
ask every
happened back
single
in
observer.
97.
This is
And whether, don't try to drunk me.
let me
I asked
tell
you what
something.
happened in 1997 and
The
whether it's
PPP
similar to what is happening now.
You put this on.
Could you
on
answer that? What
Yes.
happened in 1997, whether it's similar to
In
what is happening now?
1997, we won the elections convincingly. In 1997, in this case,
Well,
we won
the
election-
coalition
we-
probably thinks the same thing.
We won the elections.
Did it go through a verification process?
Mr. Wolford, I'm not going to even speak with you.
All right,
because
sorry,
I'm not
sorry
gonna speak with you because
sorry to
here
upset
you're part
you.
of the rigging machinery. Of
Well,
that.
he who
You
complains
are part,
about it
yes.
most might
You
know
are part of the
how to
rigging
do it
machinery.
best.
But don't trust me. There'll be
Probably you know how to do it.
The PDP won the elections by.
So there you have a confrontation between Enrico Wolford and Barrett Jagdeo.
They always do.
We got some other videos lined up for you. Gentlemen,
I just want to say this to Mr. Cleveland. Outside being a professor, I write for 3 major newspapers in the United States and Cartoon News in Guyana. So I know where to get my sources of information. So I have contacts in almost every angle in Guyana and outside of Guyana as well to get information.
Consider that.
That's what I've been trained to do.
No, I'm not arguing with that.
Okay.
I consider that I don't have
So-
the information you have.
Ask him why you think
So
so
don't take it
Charles,
personal.
Charles,
well true.
Don't take it personal.
No,
It's
I'm
source.
not. I'm not.
It's not a source.
the situation here remains that look, all the APNU supporters in Guyana are celebrating. Any reversal of this, no one knows what will happen. In fact, there is a video, you're seeing it on screen. We're not
what's
going
going to happen. I think all
we're not going
hell's
to
going
play
to
the,
break loose.
we're not going to play the
I wanna
audio,
make
but
a-
there is
I
a
wanna- I
video
wanna
on
jump in
screen
again.
that says,
Can I jump in
hold
again?
on, please wait, please wait.
Okay, sure.
Look, there is a video on screen. We're not going to play the audio, but in that video, those who are celebrating basically said any change from this position is problems. Now, declaration has happened. Expectations are high. Just like yesterday, declarations happened and expectations were high. How do we as people of a country get past this now?
Now, my comment. Going back to yesterday, I was saying let's wait on GCOM. But while we are waiting, you see a number of people gathered at the GCOM office putting a lot of pressure on the people out there. And then another group of people today also gathering outside of GCOM. They were called upon. I remember the APNU people called on some of their supporters, and I think that one of the guys, Brian, or one of them last night online on the TV here, called on their people to stand back. But there are people who refuse to move, putting a lot of pressure on the GCOM people in there. I mean, this is what I was saying yesterday and probably the day before. We got to be careful about making statements out in front before we have reliable and justifiable facts. Because it's hard to retract that having come out in front and put your stake down in the ground and make a position. Given the nature of our politics, race is a genetic to our situation and very inflammatory, especially when it comes to election time. So good sense should prevail. Good sense needs to prevail, or else it can get bad. Peace.
But what? Yes, go on, Doctor.
When you ask the question about, what do you think could happen? And of course, we always want to be careful, right? We're hoping nobody takes to the street. We're hoping, everything's going to be peaceful and we can resolve this thing. But gentlemen, we do have a history here, right, of elections. And now we keep sitting every 5 years and saying that we're divided when it comes to the election. So if we're divided at every 5 years, every election, then there's got to be something wrong, and we have to find a way to solve the problem instead of waiting for the next 5 years to address it. Now, to come back to what was said before, here, we know what's going to happen if a decision is reversed. And I'm being frank and I'm being brutal, but I'm going on the basis of history. I'm not making wild statements. We know what happened in 1992. We had Hamilton Green and other people surrounded GCOM, right? It took President Bush to make a phone call. Carter was in the center, right, in that building. And it took President Bush to make a phone call to President Hoy to say, hey, you got to take it easy. 1997, we know with Hoyt's, promulgation of this whole notion of, making the country ungovernable, more fire, slow fire. We know what happened after the 1997 election. People took to the streets, and we had violence in 1998. So we do know what's going to happen. So it's not like we don't know. It's a very volatile situation, and it can get out of hand very, very quickly. But if we're looking at Guyana's situation and we're trying to analyze it, we know that there's a pattern, there's a history here. And it is going to be a very dangerous, and I'm going on record saying this here tonight, that if this decision is reversed right now, the passions are very inflamed, I think you're going to have a lot of problems. And this is why I'm saying, if the president is sworn in, you're going to have to see some kind of declaration of emergency, and you will see other things that follow. Normally what happens with a declaration of emergency. My hope is that's not the case, but it looked like that's where we're heading with this.
Right, thank you. Let me just sorry to cut you. Let me just welcome Tim. You're on phone.
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm on the phone.
Yeah, so we have Tim briefly for tonight. I'm sorry you cannot join us for the entire show, Tim, and if you can come back later, please join us. We have gone through the day's events, and there are a couple of things that we would like your sage view on. One is, of course, the legitimacy of the declaration of Bingo, and two is explain to us the injunction that would have been served, and thirdly, your party's view on the last statement released by the international community.
Well, I'm afraid I didn't hear what you've discussed so far, but to give you a brief recap.
Yeah.
After many stops and starts, all orchestrated by GCOM, including Mingo's illness, his return, their reluctance to continue the process. You will remember that the starting point was that 9 of the 10 regions had been counted and sorted, and satisfactorily, and the result was a 54,000 vote lead to the TPP, ignoring the small parties. So what that meant was that the APNU would have to win Region 4 by more than 55,000 votes in order to recover. In 2015, they had won Region 4 by 47,000. So it looked bleak. 43. And 43,000, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it looked bleak. And they would have to do, in other words, 12,000 better than they did. And they had lost ground in each of the 9 regions. So it was expected they had lost ground in Region 4 as well. In addition, many of the third parties felt Region 4 was their strongest area. For example, I'm a Region 4 man and my base is Region 4. So in faced with that, the first thing GCOM tried to do was instead of using the poll, the statement of poll to verify, they produced a spreadsheet which they said was a summary. The first 20 readings of their spreadsheet that were made showed 18 discrepancies, each discrepancy giving APNU at least 100 votes more than the recorded statement of poll. So they were protests. At that point, they stopped again. They then, under pressure, restarted and counted 35 statements of poll in Region 4 before stopping again. There was more delay, more palaver, more back and front, and then Mingo came out and announced the results of Region 4. So he made his statement that as to the Region 4 votes, and the statement that he made has been broadcast on the social media. I'm sure you've seen it, but it reflects that APNU won Region 4 by enough votes to give them a 7,000 vote clear majority. I am saying having looked at the statements of poll, having looked at the initial results that came out from the legitimate counting process, that Mingo's statement, his declaration, is entirely fabricated. It is entirely false. It bears no resemblance to reality. So the result, the upshot of that, of course, was mayhem. After a while, the more conscientious observers, despite many distractions and efforts to get them out of the building, including Minister of Foreign Affairs going to threaten the foreign observers with revoking their accreditation and the bomb scare, everyone recognized that if they left the room where those statements of poll are stacked in bags waiting to be counted, that those statements of poll could disappear. Now, I left that building with TNM, ANUG, and other folk, and more importantly, because they have the resources, a large PPP contingent in that room looking at the statements of poll. But as I was walking away, I saw 2 truckloads of riot police arriving. The excuse, of course, is that there was mayhem in the building, and there were concerns about the chair, Justice Claudette Singh, who had not appeared for the day and was in the building and was either hiding or ill. So they have cleared the building. That means that those statements of poll, unless there are people there, I know there are still PPP people there, but someone from the New Movement was arrested, someone from Justice Party, I understand, was arrested. If those statements of poll, if that building is locked down, then the sanctity of those statements of poll become a problem, and both are false. Because then all you can rely on is the copies of the statements of poll that the PPP have and that APNU have, and APNU have already refused to produce theirs. So Mingo's statement is not based on a count of the statements of poll or verification of the statements of poll. It's based on his imagination and on the calculations which are necessary to give APNU the win. The Commonwealth people left in a huff. In fact, Owen Arthur physically took his badge off and threw it on the ground and said that if these people are running it like this, he doesn't know why they invited international observers in the first place. They have issued a statement which I'm sure you've seen, which is a watered down, in my view, version of what took place, but it does challenge the credibility. The Carter Center has also issued a statement, also watered down, in my view, but which says that the results are not credible and that the process of verification of these statements of poll needs to be concluded. In the meantime, the PPP had gone to court and gotten an order from Justice Savindra Singh. They got it on the undertaking to formally make the application, so they will have to do that tomorrow. In my view, they tried to serve the order of court. The marshal was knocking on the door. The police would not let him get past a certain point, even though it is a criminal offense to try to hinder a marshal in the execution of his duties. He was unable to personally serve the chairman, as far as I understand, but was able to serve other members of GCOM. The order, I'm afraid, is couched in language that is subjective and may be subject to interpretation. And for that reason, I'm not sure about its efficacy. But I think that it says enough. It says that they are injuncted from continuing the process and are mandated to proceed as the Act requires. That's the state of play. We have had an election which has been hijacked, and I am afraid that Guyana is in desperate straits.
Thank you for that, Tim. Tim, just if you don't mind, just hold a minute. So viewers at the background, you're seeing a video without audio of the standoff that happened today at GCOM. This was when Mingo attempted to do the declaration but was drowned out in terms of the loud protests that erupted there. We're not going to play the video. It's a little bit disturbing, but it really showed that not just the Guyanese, not Tim and the PPP and the other local people, but the international observers were as astounded as everyone else at what started to transpire today. Gentlemen, questions for Tim?
All right, the first thing, I know the other parties are questioning the preliminary declaration for Region 4, and that's their right. In fact, but I am a supporter of the coalition, and even though many of the results have been declared, I too would want to question the results for Region 2, 3, 5, and 6. So I won't deny anybody space to question anything. Those are my views, and I keep telling everyone, just be liberal, be open, and be prepared to face the truth. You know, people must not be shut up. I wouldn't try to shut up debate on any issue. So if you want to question the results for Region 4, that's their right. Even though all the others have been declared.
But Brian, it's not a questioning of the results of Region 4. It's asking for a verification.
Okay, well, ask for the verification.
The other regions were verified.
Right. No, but even the verified ones, even those that have been verified, 2, 3, 5, and 6, I would like those.
Tim will correct me if I'm wrong. The process allows for a demand for recount. The process allows that, but the process hasn't finished.
I don't know why we keep saying the same thing over and over again. The process is very, very clear. GCOM has flaunted this arrangement. This has been a deliberate attempt by GCOM to rig Region 4 election. For what purpose? Only they can answer that. The thing is this, that's why we keep saying in this program, GCOM should have independent people. None of the people at GCOM now seems to be independent. And that is why you can't look forward. The process was going along so well. They had over 300 statements of poll verified. The APNU people agreed to it. The PP agreed to it. The other parties agreed to it. Then it stopped. Why?
So Charles,
the question is why.
Charles,
and if you don't mind, before you go on, I know Says text me, says he's on the ground and he see what's going on as well. Maybe Tim also there. If you can contact maybe Says, give us a report, he will tell us exactly what's going on as well. So it's really something that is need to be.
We got a number of persons lined up tonight, Charles. So yeah, we're hoping to get everybody on, but we're compressed for time. So I want to just quickly, sorry to interject, I want to read to the viewers and to yourselves. By the way, there's a video playing live. Can we have audio on that video before we read the statement?
So tonight, we may celebrate, but we have work to do, government. We are going to build this country. We are going to work with the people of this country from all of the regions without discrimination. And you believe me, in 5 years, in 10 years, life will be better. Your child will graduate from this year. 10 years from now, we graduate from the university.
No, I'm not hearing anything.
Video of this ranger addressing a crowd. I'm not.
There are people who are opposed to the things you stand for. And we have worked hard not only to build up hope and aspirations among our people, but also to prevent the evil people from getting back in job. I just ask you to celebrate, but celebrate moderately. Don't attack anybody, but you know all of us can speak queries.
The audio is coming over the live. Dr. Bitram and Tim, the audience are receiving the audio.
Yeah, I can't hear the audio.
I know you can. We can.
Okay. If you can summarize what was being said, we appreciate it.
Okay, Dev, we can stop that video at this time. Take the audio off. So there is a celebration ongoing. You have seen Granger with Harman and Trotman and other members of the APNU list there. They basically, one of the nice things that he has done there is to announce to his supporters to not attack anybody and to not take out any spite and so forth on people. Now, let me read the statement. There is a statement by the EU Election Observation Mission. It reads as follows. The EU Election Observation Mission has been observing the tabulation process for Region 4 since March 2nd. Earlier today, the returning officer declared the results before the legally required tabulation process was completed. We therefore urge the Guyana Elections Commission to resume the tabulation of results for Region 4 in compliance with Section 84 of the Representation of the People Act. Now we have a video. Please, let's get this video of the international observer speaking with the media. Devin, please play the video.
Yesterday and into today, the transparent verification of the results from District 4 was stopped. And the fact that there was no transparency about the results that were ultimately announced today means that those results lack credibility. We don't know, and no one else can verify that the results that were announced are the correct results or not. We just don't know. And we don't know because there was no transparency in the process for announcing those results. We saw that there was an agreed upon procedure where the parties were able to verify the statements of poll, and then that procedure was ended, and these results therefore came as a result of a process that we can't identify. And because we can't identify it, and the other international observers in neither political party, nobody really knows whether these results are accurate or not. So we believe that there is still an opportunity for this election to have credibility. We believe that there's a number of aspects within Guyanese law that could be utilized in order to ensure that it gains credibility. And we urge the people of Guyana and the different political parties and GCOM to abide by those rules. One of those.
Great. Thank you for that video. So, gentlemen, there you have an open statement by the international community basically saying that the results, the declaration lacks credibility. That's their term, lacks credibility. Dr. Rose.
Well, the thing is that I don't know why you want to stop the verification process in the midst of an election coming towards. So, if all the observers are saying the same thing, and something is wrong, and this is so blatant, I just can't believe that this is Guyana of 2020. It is so blatant. Look, if you want to break the election to the past, I'll tell them how to break it before you even vote in the process. But you're not going to start, you get a statement of polls, you're going to stop that, a spreadsheet, and then you're going to stop that, and then you're going to stop the verification process, produce a report, signed by Mingo, these are the results. And then suddenly, the CEO disappeared from the building, Ronald Singh took sick. So, it is so glaring.
You're going to allow me to interrupt because I'm afraid I have to go.
Yes,
but what I was just saying is that the European Union, the Carter Center, and the Commonwealth folk have all condemned this and said that this thing is not transparent. And we have a list that is signed by Mingo that is arbitrary and is fictitious. Now, I cannot believe that you would have someone on your program who pretends to be credible, who wants to justify that. And anyone who wants to justify the production and signing off on a list that has not been verified, has not been counted according to the statutory procedure, needs to have a look in the mirror. I will take my leave on that. Take care.
Thanks. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, but here's the problem, right? Jason Carter is saying that to regain credibility, you have to go back to the process, look at the statement of poll. Everybody knows that. But the dilemma right now for Guyanese is that you've now created a situation where, as you said earlier, you've told half of the population that you've won, and now to go back to the drawing board and assuming if they go through the regular process and examine all the statement of polls and come up with a different result, you are now courting a situation that's going to be dangerous. And I think people understand, and that's going to be problematic.
Correct. And you know what else, gentlemen? Before you speak, Dr. Rose, here is the perspective. Whether PPPC comes out on top or APNU AFC comes out on top, Guyana has lost big time.
I agree. It should be let the process play out. And whosoever wins, wins. It doesn't matter. Let it play out. If you think you're winning, why are you going through all this shenanigans to stall this and to stall that? I just don't understand. But the other part of it, I want to say this. Guyana has come of age since 1992. I don't think if this is reversed, the people are going to go to riot. I think President Granger should be able to sue them and let them know that, look, there was a mistake and we all have to agree that, look, we have lost the election. I don't think the people will want to go into any violent acts at this stage because I don't want to see the youth of Guyana be locked up or be killed for any politics. It doesn't worth it. So they've got to take upon themselves and say, you know what, we're going to go so far, we're going to celebrate. If the results change, we just pull back. But if they want to get involved in violence, they're going to be deaths, they're going to be jail time and everything else. And you don't want this to happen to the youths of Guyana. That's my point.
So Dr. Rose, let me just address the comment that has been made by Miss what's the name there? It's a fine piece of writing. It's a comment from Namila Schultz. Now, here, Miss Schultz, here is my response to your comment, to your question. We have said earlier that the PPP released its SOPs and that the APNU has doubted the verification or the accuracy of those SOPs by posting what it believed were SOPs for Sophia. Our belief, and the panelists believe, I'm sure they would support me, this is why we want GCOM to verify. We want GCOM to verify all the SOPs because we are not going to take the PPP's word or we are not going to take APNU's word for whichever side it is. GCOM has to do what this country has paid billions and billions of dollars to get them here to do that.
I agree with that.
Their duty.
And GCOM has the SOPs. Someone said tonight that APNU don't want to present theirs, but GCOM has theirs as well. So let them present theirs and see where that goes. Take GCOM SOPs then and let verify with that. And whosoever wins, wins. I am not here to support no party. If APNU wins, glory to APNU. If the PEP wins, glory to the PEP. It does not matter to me. I do not live in Guyana. But let the process be democratic, transparent, and fair and free. That's all. The country has become of age.
Also, I'd like to bring this point in. Look, not a lot of people has agreed with me. I posted this, I got a lot of blows for it, but I believe it's the right thing. Look, to our viewers, to all of Guyana, please, let us not make the election to be about Afro-Guyanese versus Indo-Guyanese. Race has nothing to do with this. It is due process. We have to fight for the uphold of due process, not for racial prejudices. Look, this thing here about race is going to take us nowhere. There are Afro-Guyanese on the Indian slate, on the PPP slate, and there are Indo-Guyanese on the APNU slate. The question for this platform and what we are pushing is due process. That is what matters to us, and that is what must matter to this nation.
I'm sorry.
Hold on, Doc, if you don't mind. Your sentiment is fine, but the reality is...
Sorry to interrupt you guys. Sorry to interrupt. Mr. Nandalal is on.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Nandalal, Anil, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
You've had a very tiring day, sir. If you don't mind, as you know, if you want to recap from your perspective, the most the most dramatic things of today, but more specifically, sir, were you able to serve the injunction?
The injunction that was granted today was served on 6 of the 6 commissioners. I was unable to serve on the chairperson because the order is directed against GCOM, which will require me to serve on the chairperson and all the 6 commissioners. I served on the 6 commissioners, but not on the chairperson, because she could not have been found. I could not serve on low MCU because he could not have been found. I could not serve on Mingo because he could not have been found.
Wow.
Okay, and just a follow-up question on that. Educate our viewers, if you are unable to serve, what does it mean? Does it mean it doesn't have the effect of law?
Certainly not. The law has moved on from that position. Once a party becomes aware of a court order, and that court order is directed to that party has a duty in law to comply with that court order.
Okay.
But efforts will continue to be made tomorrow to ensure that these orders are served, at least on the offices of Low and Seal, Mingo, and Planet Singh.
Okay. And Anil, the international community has rightfully called the process in some adjectives that we have gone through before. But tell us in your words the more salient but more meaningful things that happened today that you feel the Guyanese and all the viewers must be very, very aware of and stand up for.
Well, as you know, the electorate spoke on March the 2nd when they cast their ballot, and that activated a series of legal procedures which are required to be complied with. At the place of polls, the ballots are counted, and all the agents and the presiding officer are required to sign that document that is called a statement of poll. And that document contains the particulars of the voting activity at that particular polling station. For example, the number of votes that should have been cast, the number of votes actually cast, in which party's favor they were cast, and the numbers, how many spoiled ballots there were, if any, etc., etc. Once that tally is done, and each ballot is counted after examination of them one by one, then a total is announced by the presiding officer, PO for short, and all the parties sign on to that, and that is pasted on a conspicuous part of the place where the polling took place, and that constitutes a disclosure of the results for that polling place. Now, each party has a copy of the polling of that statement of poll, and the presiding officer keeps 2, I think. One goes to the returning officer and one goes to the chief elections officer. Now, the next step of the way is that all these statements of poll are accumulated for a particular region and sent to a central place where the returning officer is to carry out certain functions in law, and these are mandatory functions. The returning officer is required to verify each statement of poll received, and he must do so in the presence of the parties and any interested observers and or stakeholders. This is a public verification process. The way in which it is being done is that the statement of poll is held up. Each statement of poll is held up by the returning officer, and the particulars of it are related, allowed, and each party represented at that exercise will conform whether the information they have on their statement of full is consistent. If it is consistent, then the returning officer ticks that one off as that one is okay. If there's any variation, then that variation is raised aloud, and there's a process that is embarked upon that is designed to reconcile those differences. At the end of that verification process, a report is prepared. And first of all, that report will constitute the declaration by the returning officer of the results of that region. And that is a public process, as I said, and it is normally done where the verification takes place, in the very room. It's a very smooth process, and it was done in every region in the country without any problem whatsoever. For 9 other regions it was done at, and there was no problem. It was done in one central place, all the parties there, and that process I outlined was concluded. And that report was, that disclosure was made, and that report is then transmitted to the Chief Elections Officer. Now, after that report is transmitted to the Chief Elections Officer, in Guyana you have 10 of those reports will be coming because there are 10 regions. Keith Lowenfield, as Chief Elections Officer, his next duty is to collate all those reports and tabulate the total number of votes. And he is to prepare a report of his conclusions from all the regions in writing, it says electronically and in manual form, meaning either by some form of electronic data or in a manual form, meaning by paper, written out. And then that report is transmitted to the Elections Commission. And the Elections Commission has a duty to verify that the statement of that the presiding officer disclosure matches the RO's disclosure, that the RO's disclosure matches the Chief Elections Officer disclosure. Therefore, all are consistent. When the Elections Commission concludes that exercise, then there is a final declaration for the election held.
Okay.
Here we are in Guyana now, is that the 9 regions have been concluded. Region 4, which is the crucial region, has that the verification process that the RO has to embark upon was never concluded. It was started, and all your audience and viewers would know by now the machinations, the drama, the trickery, the artifices that would have been engaged. So, not to complete that process. It was far from complete. In fact, it was less than 25% complete. And then the RO suddenly came earlier today, and one time he attempted to make the declaration when that was in the room where the verification took place. Obviously, that was objected to by everyone, including the international observers, the diplomatic community, and all the parties. Then he went several hours later, when his attempt there was thwarted, he went to a different part of the building, 4 stories higher, and he shouted from the top of the stairs. Apparently, he made some declaration. But you cannot declare, because what is the declaration? As I said to the press earlier today, you have 20 marbles in a bag. That is what comes from the polling station, 20 marbles in a bag. The verification exercise is to take out all 20 marbles, count them, see that they are actually marbles. All the people must be there to verify that they are marbles, and there are 20 of them. And then an announcement that there are 20 marbles. That essentially, in a simplified way, is what the declaration of the RO is. So he never examined the marble. He didn't complete the examination. So how can you declare? What are you declaring?
Right.
You have not verified, A declaration is a declaration of the fact that you have conducted a verification to your satisfaction and to the satisfaction of the other players. He didn't do that. So the declaration that was made was vacuous, illegal, unconstitutional, unlawful, and complete and utter nullity. And this foolishness that they're talking about Granger being sworn in, how can he be sworn in? We have not completed the process. There is an election. You can only swear in if you win the election, if the results are tabulated and the results are declared by the proper authority. We have not finished tabulating the results in this weekend.
I agree.
You have to move to the CEO, and then the CEO has to prove his part. Then you move to the commission.
So, Anil, what's going to happen? Look, the truth is that as you were giving us this report, all the APNU persons are celebrating. Granger spoke to them early, but he didn't tell them not to celebrate. He basically said, keep your celebrations down and wait for tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow, if this thing were to reverse, what's going to be the state of our country?
I can't think about that. What I know is that an injunction, first of all, I have to begin from the premise or the assumption that Guyana is still a civilized country and that we are governed by a rule of law.
I agree with
that. And that we tie to the basic notions of decency and democracy. I have to speak from that contextual background.
Here.
Now, in such a society, a high court judge has made an order, whether rightfully or wrongfully, that order must be complied with. I got 3 orders today from the high court judge. 1, restraining Mr. Mingo from making the declaration. 2, unless he complies with that verification process laid out in the law. 2, an order compelling him to carry out that verification. And thirdly, an order restraining the Elections Commission and the chairman and the CEO, the chief elections officer, from making any disclosure of any final results unless and until the returning officer comply with that verification process. So they are locked off. They can't lawfully extricate themselves other than by seeking to have that order discharged.
Sorry to interject. I have another question coming in from a viewer to you. They say that as we speak, GCOM would have ordered everybody. Well, the security forces, I believe, may have gotten GCOM building on a lockdown. So people have asked, well, what about the integrity of the SOPs if no one is now there to watch them?
Well, we have our SOPs. I know that the SOPs have certain security features. I don't know whether there is such a lockdown. I know that we gave instructions that our people, and we are doing it on a rotational basis, must never leave the premises at one time. So there should always be our presence there, and the press will continue to monitor the situation, etc.
Right.
So, and I have to, you see, I have to assume that the Elections Commission, irrespective of the behavior of certain officers within the commission, that it is a lawful commission and is a commission that will carry out its duties in accordance with law. Other than any other thing, I can't express a view. I can't tell you.
Understood.
You can ask me, can the gentleman next to you kill you? And I would tell you as a lawyer, no. But what I mean is whether he can lawfully kill you. I am answering no. But
so, Anil, here is another question. I know that earlier there was a verbal exchange between Enrico Wolford and opposition leader Barra Jagdeo. And it seems that there is a script to harken back to 1997. And one of our viewers, it's posted on screen there, one of our viewers have asked that Is there any way you could quickly comment, whether 1997 has any relevancy here, and what if so?
First of all, 1997 was a different time. We had a different set of laws. Remember, as a result of 1997 elections, we had the Hermanston Accord.
Yes.
And we had changes to our electoral laws. That was part of what they demanded when they bought Georgetown in 1997. They wanted certain electoral reforms. So the state of the law was different in 1997 from what it is now. That's the first thing. Secondly, in 1997, Doudna Singh, the chairman of the Elections Commission, based upon the report he received from the chief elections officer, the PPP had obtained an unassailable lead. An unassailable lead. What that means, that the margin of victory was so huge that even if every vote left to be counted were to be given to the other side, they could not have defeated the PPP. And there were tensions in the country, and there were people burning the streets, and in those circumstances, Doudna Singh made the announcement of the result. And he did so with the concurrence of the commission at the time. That is why when the commission, Mr. Paris, Councillor Paris, went back to Congress Place, they broke his car. Paris voted, they had a vote. The commission decided, not Doudna Singh unilaterally. Enrico Wolford, I don't know, I wasn't there when they, Enrico Wolford can't have that argument with me. That's nonsense.
Adil Charles, again here. You said that the order of the court was not given to the chairman, the chief election officer, and Mr. Mingo. If you send a text order to them, everybody got WhatsApp, and would that count as being legal, served on them? And secondly, before you answer that question, all the observer mission in Guyana have complained bitterly that the electoral laws that was recommended to be changed was not changed. Even when the PP was in government, apparently the laws was not changed as well. Why would we now believe that if the laws are changed, that we would not have this issue today?
So, Graham, you hear the same call we have for constitutional reform. You want legal reform. I don't know which law they are talking about, but we were in government, we made all the changes that were required, as far as I am aware. They were in government, they had a majority, they could have changed whatever laws they felt needed to be changed, and changes were made to the law by both governments, and consensually made, too, most of them. And then the Constitution was reformed, as you are aware, 200 odd changes, and these changes came out of a process where a Constitutional Reform Commission, not the PVP, but the Constitutional Reform Commission was established, broad-based, had about 5 different groupings of political and other representation on that commission. And that commission went and held consultations right around the country and came up with recommendations, all of which ones that were agreed upon were implemented and made part of the Constitution unanimously. So I don't know what else is there to be changed, but so maybe it's not a question of law, man. It's a question of non-compliance with the law. What you are seeing here, these people went to the rules, they went to the game. They were in government. They could have said they wanted to change the law.
So, Anil,
anything about fair law.
Right.
This is a culture of lawlessness.
So Anil, your point is taken. I know that there is a joint press conference between the various parties. We want to bring that to our viewers so that they could have a view of what's going on there. But very quickly, Anil, we also have a situation where a couple persons were arrested in GCOM.
I am told that Well, first of all, my information is that the chairperson, Ms. Starlet Singh, was locked up in a room beyond her, against her will in GCOM. And we had repeated efforts to get to that room, and we were prevented. We hit on the door and everything else, the police, whole grouping, a long story. And she was in that room, and a senior police officer went there because she's apparently known to him, and he knows her, and she made her send a message to him to try to get her out of the room. Okay. And when he attempted to do that, I understand that he was arrested. Glenn Lal and Adam Harris, apparently both are known to the chairperson. They came also because they said that they received message that she held hostage in a room, and they were unable to get her out.
Viewers, you're seeing that arrest on the screen behind you as Mr. Nandalal is speaking to us. Sorry, Anna.
Yes, so, okay. And that was, she was locked away so that I couldn't get to serve the court order on her.
Okay.
Well, so I want to cut to Charles. I got nothing to do with law, Charles.
No, but the court order, was it, if you serve it, can the court order be served through a text message to the chairman and the other people?
It's not one of the authorized method of service, but certainly it can be done, and I will do it. I just came in from the room.
Mr. Nandalal.
Thank you so much. No, hold on. Thank you so much, Anil. I'm sorry, we got to cut into this press release by the joint opposition, the joint parties. Anil, thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Let me join parties.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Everyone will do what they do because this is not the process and the verification of content. We are left to, after some time, emerge. The deputy steward then came into the room and assembled everyone, saying the process would start. We then waited not a few hours.
I'm sorry, we're getting some problems with the audio, but please let's be patient.
Appeared with a sheet of paper, and he stood up saying he was going to declare the results. Everyone in the room objected because this was not the process.
Meanwhile, we're getting audio. That earlier we had Mr. Anil Nandalal on screen, and he did make some interesting, give us some interesting perspectives. We're working to get the volume up. The audio from the source is very, very low. So we're working to get that. As soon as we get it, we're going to revert back to the video. Dr. Ramurak, you wanted to make a point.
No, I was going to ask Anil and maybe some of the members on the panel here can maybe answer this. The current attorney...
and then we saw later this evening, declared by GCOM that the declared result, the result was declared and was placed on the website. You have seen many international and local stakeholders who have already responded to this. They've already said it's not credible. We all objected to this. And we are asking them to return to the process, the legal process of having the results for region number 4 announced, verified, input. For the People's Progressive Party Civic, we shared the SOP. Many of the parties had their SOPs too. And the results that we would have received from all the regions put the People's Progressive Party well ahead of the APNU AFC. When we saw the declared result that was delayed for days for Region 4, it was completely different from what was on the SOP, what was contained in the SOPs for District Number 4. There's one other point that you cannot forget to. That is when two DROs were attempting to call wrong figures. They were inflating in 17 boxes. They were inflating the figures for ACNU and reducing the figures for the PPP. When we objected to this process, the CEO came, he went, he checked him back. Here's the SOP. He saw that the figures were wrong, that were called out, and then he decided that we are going to go back to the SOPs and not the spreadsheet as we objected. So these are some of my opening remarks. I'm going to call on, in no specific order, my colleagues at the table to make the initial comment.
I would like to interject here, if I may. I think yesterday when we attempted to look at the process that existed, there was a spreadsheet that was being used. There was some disagreement in terms of the spreadsheet and the population of that spreadsheet. When we got into the room, there was also a heated discussion. The Liberty and Justice Party objected. We clarified and we confirmed that the only document that should be used for verification are the SOPs, and we thus requested that, to which the CEO agreed, and all three parties, the APNU AFC, the Liberty and Justice Party, and the PPPC, all agreed that the process that will be used for verification will be the SOPs. After we started that process, we got to a point and we took about an hour and a half break for dinner. Then the clerks came back and started, I think they would have completed another 4 for Region 4, after which they said, you know what, you're tiring. We understand that sometimes the staff of GCOM are potentially overworked. Sometimes they also have conditions that may prohibit them from being up for long hours. But I also want to draw something to what the presidential candidate of the PPC said. While they agree with a significant amount of it, there are some things that are absent in that discussion. It seems very suspicious that the chair of GCOM was inaccessible to all political parties today. Every time that we, the Liberty and Justice Party, made to access the chair for a discussion, for a clarification, or anything of the sort, and also the CEO, those things have not materialized into anything. What we also understand is that the CEO was present at the command center. We also understand that the chair was present at the command center for the entirety of the day. And when we requested these things, nothing came to fruition. At the end of the day today, if I were to walk back a little bit further, last night at the conclusion of the tabulation of the SOPs, Mr. Keith Lowenfield, the CEO of the Guyana Elections Commission, committed to all the political parties present, inclusive of the observers, that the process will resume at 9 o'clock in the morning and continue until finality, of which when our agents showed up this morning, nothing of said occurred, only to realize that the DCEO came in and followed along the lines which the presidential candidate Mr. Ali presented. Also, at the end of the day today, there was a lot of commotion around the unwanted involuntary confinement of Madam Chair. When the political parties attempted to have access to her, we were told, inclusive of the commissioners of the Guyana Elections Commission, were told that they could not see her. I stood there at the stairs when those instructions were clearly delivered, that the commissioners in themselves did not have access to the chair. Shortly thereafter, we saw a medical team, an ambulance show up at the structure. We saw a medical team come in with an oxygen tank, a stretcher, and a medical bag. They proceeded up the stairs. They had a short discussion. After that, they departed At that point, the Liberty and Justice Party became very, very concerned about the health and well-being of the chair of GCOM, because when anything happened to her, not only would it be tragic for her and her family, but it would also be tragic for our nation. When we attempted to intervene and have that addressed, we were met with resistance. When I say resistance, I'm talking verbal. We are not a violent party by any means, and I don't think any of my colleagues here are also in that line. But when we attempted to have a discussion with the chair, the police force themselves said that you cannot do that, and they simply pushed us back. At some point during the course of the evening, someone, I was not present when the door was breached, but someone breached the door, and when the door was opened, there was a lot of distress and concern, because the report that we received was that Madam Chair was lying on the ground in a position that people looking in would have assumed that she might have been incapacitated. At which point, the General Secretary for the new movement, Dr. Guyana, went into the room to ascertain her well-being. Also, an observer went into the room to ensure that nothing was afoot. What we understand is that after that happened, that the chair was moved to another room, and then there was Dr. Kanai was arrested, and the international observer was also arrested. And at this point, it almost seems like we, from the Liberty and Justice Party, have been placed in a position where we do not have any kind of confidence. When I say confidence, I mean absolutely no confidence in any declaration that has emanated from the RO at this point, because all of that information has not been confirmed. No one sat there and scrutinized those. If I were to walk back a little bit, based on the actions last night, what happened is that the clerk or the person who was entering the data, when he pulled up a screen, he accidentally pulled up a screen that was already populated for Georgetown with numbers that were far, far, far removed from what we have on our SOPs. And that in itself is evidence of tampering with data to present a false, what I'd say, declaration to the population of Guyana. And I don't think that it would be responsible of any single credible news media in Guyana to present anything other than facts and anything that is generated outside of the legal framework that exists. There is provision in the law that when, before declaration is made for the verification process, I think it is under Section 83 of the Representation of People's Act, don't quote me on that, that it says that the verification method, the verification of the polls or the generation of the polls has to be verified through the SOPs, and we are still waiting that process to be concluded. I find it very disturbing that the AP and EASC can move to a declaration without credible information at this point.
See, let me wait down the show. I want to take up where Mr. Shimon left off, and that would be more confidence. The United Republican Party's presidential candidate, Dr. Bantu, has consistently stated that the party has no confidence in GCOM. And that has been consistently demonstrated over the period of this election. We believe that the elections have been seized and hijacked, and that the processes that has followed is not consistent with that of GCOM or with the constitutional requirements. I would want to just comment on a statement that Mr. Schumann made, and that would be several persons fell ill during the process. And that worried us because we would believe that an organization that has been funded with $7 billion would have contingency plan in place, especially as it relates to human resources. If this process is going to take 2 or 3 days, it is inconceivable that any human resource manager would plan without putting a shift system in place. And constantly and consistently, it has been presented to us that no shift system was in place.
We're gonna cut from this. We're gonna cut from this press conference, and we're gonna probably take it to another level. We wanna get on. But what we know is that the press conference will be addressing the things that happened today. Devin, is there any way you could replay that video with the arrest of the persons in GCOM? If you could play it, I'd be grateful. Play it with audio so that the viewers can see what transpired there today.
There's not a connecting door. They move from over there. The move door. The move. Where's the lady? Where's the lady? Where?
Let me just check her. I have a right to check her. No doctors in there, and you have doctors out here.
Where's she at? Where's she at? Remove her from there.
So that's a short clip that we have of the happenstances within GCOM. I must say that, rightfully, anybody who attempts to get to the person of the chairman should be detained. I mean, any adverse action towards the chairperson's person is not good. But the question is that there were some medical personnel there that also were denied access. We are told that it is alleged that the chairman's door was locked and there was no way she could have come out. And so we are still waiting verification for some of those things. But it's worrisome, because if this could be what has happened within that August area, and the rest of the things that happened today, what will happen? How are we going to deal with the mistrust across the nation? Gentlemen, your thoughts.
Well, there's something called habeas corpus, and so we need to see the body of the chairperson. We need to know if she's sick. We need to know where she is, and we need to hear from her. But I do want to say, I want to come back to something that was mentioned before, Yoga, and with all due respect, I understand, your enthusiasm, and we want to make sure this situation doesn't get out of hand. But we have to look at the big picture here, all right? I know you said it's about due process. It is about a process, and it's about a fair process, and to make sure the tabulation is done properly and according to law and so on. But the issue, when you look at the big picture, it is also an ethnic, it's a racial problem, and we can't lose sight of the fact that is a major issue we have to deal with, and we can't just sweep that under the rug, because it's an issue that comes up. It's an issue that's going to be with us for a while until we figure out how to address and solve these problems. So we have to look at the bigger picture, and I think due process may be a part of the issue right now at this moment, but the bigger picture is, how do we create a society that is not so fractured? And I think that should be our goal right now.
Point taken. Gentlemen.
I want to know something. The chairperson, she will have a security, a bodyguard. She will have someone sitting outside of her door. How come she don't have any security with her?
Dr. Amarat, I'm in support of what you said. I just was expressing the very thoughts with my colleagues here, two of them. We have a larger question, a larger issue that has not been fully addressed. It comes boiling up every few years. We get an election because there's major mistrust on both sides. If you say you win, the other side say you lose. And this is what is going on. But we're not addressing this issue. Mm-hmm. And one of the bigger problems is the Constitution itself, because the Constitution when you elect a president, that person has full command of all the resources to be dispensed, however he chooses, I would say, based on a plan. And it may very well go to likes and dislikes. In a poor country like ours, the resources or the cake, as they say, is just so small a pie. And then we have another problem, which is an authoritarian history. Command. People believe in strong leaders and all of that. So there's a further mix with race in what we have inherited from our constitution, or British people. Two-party system in a multi-ethnic, multicultural society is very hard to have trust. Unless some major reforms are done, unless some major reforms are done to address this problem, we're going to keep doing this every now and again. Societies like Nigeria and them have also, may argue is one race, but they also have ethnicities within. Yeah. And they have serious problems. Some, unfortunately for us, we have only experienced one major, I would say in the 60s, conflagration, where people went at each other and do all kind of evil things. But people have been voting with their feet instead of living through this problem. But we coexist peacefully after elections. Why is it that we got to continue doing this? Nobody wants to
so meanwhile we're deliberating. We're gonna get some questions coming into us. I've asked Devin to interject when the questions come because we don't want to keep people waiting. Go ahead, Devin.
Thank you, panelists, for this very interesting discussion. I want to make a few observations, and then I'm going to pose a question. Now, the inaccessibility to the chairwoman is very troubling. I have some private information which I will not share on the media here. And it would seem that something does not add up with that anyhow. The other thing about constitutional reform, I support that. Myself and Dr. Danpal wrote a booklet on that since 2006. We communicated with the various people from both sides, all parties, and they have the commentary in the book. We proposed that. We discussed the idea of inclusive governance, etc., power sharing. That's part of a major constitutional reform. But as Anil Nandalal just said, constitutional reform is useless without compliance. The other part of it, coming back to the ethnic security dilemma part, constitutional reform is useless unless you reform the police and the army and look at the structure as well. You think Granger could have done what he did today if he hadn't supported the army and the police? While they were doing that, he called all the top brass of the army and police at his office of president, discussing strategy and transition. They are rehearsing already for takeover of power. These are the issues we got discussed now, but I don't think this is the time for Constitution to argue about that right now. The thing is about the dilemma now, and as Dr. Betaram said, we got to worry about ethnic disturbances, because historical this has been the pattern and we just can't throw it under the rug. What we can do as leaders to mitigate any kind of explosion. So I would like to have the panel views on this, because we need to move forward and we need to get this thing resolved as well. Because I can't believe that so many smart and intelligent people in Guyana, and they will allow a process to be supported like this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, your comment.
One question I'll raise there is, Anil mentioned that there were about 200 amendments to the Constitution. And that might be correct, but the two articles that they don't want to change is one is the election of the president. And this racial voting, and I know you were talking earlier, Yoga, about it's not about race. It is absolutely everything about race. Because both sides, the Indians don't trust the Africans don't trust the Indians when it comes to governance. As we heard, we are saying that we live
governance for when it comes to power.
Well, that is governance. Well, the power, you have power to govern, right? And that is, the power of the state. And that is where the prize is. And our constitution says, we keep repeating the same thing over and over again, that the party that gets the most votes win the presidency. And that is why both races cling to their party, because they hope they vote as a bloc, their party wins the presidency, and that is the prize. So when Anil said that they have 200 amendments to the Constitution, I agree. But the one that matters, right here in the United States, we had Super Tuesday. Guess what? Bernie Sanders won California, the big prize.
Charles,
And that is the problem we have in Guyana. Unless we change that, we're gonna say this election after election after election, and we're getting absolutely nowhere.
But Charles, the question is, right, we know that is the inherent issue, right? How we will get there will require a lot of gumption from political players. The current challenge we have, next steps. What do we do? Brian, to you in Cleveland, do you think that given the statements released by Carter Center et al., do you think that, and also Mr. Graves, do you think that tomorrow GCOM will resume the verification process?
I think they should comply with the rule of law. Yeah, they should comply with the rule of law. It is part of the process, and it should be observed. But I would also caution that undue pressure, because I'm seeing a lot of people gathered there and putting undue pressure on the commissioners. Working under duress is not an easy thing. You want to do the right thing, but you want to be given the freedom to perform. No one wants to walk with somebody watching over the shoulder. Each of us knows that. It's kind of hard. But right. I hope the right thing would happen tomorrow.
Okay, but you believe that due process, you believe that the verification process should resume, and we should discard, absolutely discard the unverified release, the unverified numbers.
I can't tell you where they are, what they have. Up to what point it has been verified. Because what I understand today is that
389.
Right. At some no, that's the old figure. I think way back 389 was verified. Up to some point today, I understand some verification was going on until that bomb threat.
No verification occurred today at all. Last night when it stopped at 1:32, that was it.
Never resumed. So in the process today, when they're about to start, I understand there was a bomb threat. So I mean, all these things are unnecessary. I mean, maybe for what reason I don't know, but I think they're unnecessary. But due process should prevail.
So we have our good friend Brian Max from Max Media Productions joining us. Brian, welcome to our program. I have a specific question for you guys.
Yes.
So here is what we have been deliberating. We went through all that happened today. We went through all everybody's opinions about what happened, the various events. But here is the question. All the APNO supporters are currently celebrating. The international observers have called for the process to continue. What will happen if the process continues and the celebrations get overturned?
Well, this is what I was talking about last night on the show, where persons such as Amna Ali and James Bond have been lying to their supporters. They've been literally lying to their supporters because they have the statement of polls. They have it. They know that the PPP is in front by 17,000, 18,000 votes. They know it. But they've been lying to their supporters. And it is sad because what are they going to do? How are they going to unwind that lead up to then come back to tell their supporters, well, we were lying to you all along. We knew that we were behind. How are you going to unwind that terrible lie? And the country is now, I have been speaking to a lot of APNO people and they call me and said, Brian, I think we have some doubt. What is happening? And I would tell them, I said, your party is losing. You're losing by 18,000 votes. They said, but Mr. Bond is telling us that we're winning. And Ali is saying that we're winning. I said, they're lying to you. They're lying to you.
So Brian,
if by now today, if after all the attempts to do not to do the verification of the statement of polls, if that is not enough fruit for you and enough proof that something is wrong on your APNU end, where GCOM has been fully compromised. The chairman of GCOM has been fully compromised. All the staffers of GCOM seem to have been fully compromised. How do you explain to your supporters if you have half of a brain as a supporter, and you look and you listen and you say, why would my party not want the verification of the vote for Region 4? Where are our big support is from? Our big numbers are going to come from Region 4. Why are my party leaders not allowing the verification to go through?
Brian,
just use the little brain you have left.
Brian, here is another question for you. And this goes exactly to the point. So the PPP released its SOPs to the public. However, APNO has released snapshots of a couple SOPs that they say is totally rejecting the PPP's release. So APNO supporters by now have been fully led to believe that whatever PPP has is wrong, is false. How do you respond to that?
They are misleading their supporters because everyone else except the APNO people know that the PPP won. I don't have a horse in this race. I'm just a Guyanese who love my country. And I want free and fair elections. I want democracy in my country. And I'm going to fight for free and fair elections. I'm going to fight for democracy.
Brian.
And if I have to die, if I have to die,
no.
If I have to die, I am willing to die for my country.
Does it come to that?
No,
That's
Brian.
where I'm going.
Brian.
I'm not going to be diplomatic. I'm not going to sugarcoat this.
Brian.
It is that I have to die for my country to restore democracy. So be it.
Brian, the question.
We're sugarcoating these issues too much.
Brian, the question Dr. Mohamed asked you is that how would you know?
Did I not respond by saying that the APNO people
no,
lying,
but I think the right answer
You're lying. You're a liar. You are a liar. You are a bare-faced, nasty, stinking liar. You're sitting there and you're lying.
Brian,
you're a liar.
Brian, is Dr. Rose talking to you? What I'm saying to you is this.
Oh, Dr. Rose, I thought it was the other lying Brian.
No.
Brian.
Oh, come on.
The man who was the
Brian is raw. Wait.
Nothing like that was reported.
No, I respond. No,
Brian.
I will step out.
Brian.
No.
I'm not going to be here for somebody to be addressing anybody on this panel like that. I'd rather step out.
No.
Brian, listen to this.
You're lying, Brian. That's your name. Lying, Brian.
Brian, listen to this. Okay, Brian, listen to this. Let me ask Brian this question first.
Let me get a say. Let me get a say. Brian, listen, Brian. I want you to identify when I've lied to you, but you say you want to die. Let me give you an example. Mr. The former Attorney General, when he was in power, Mr. Cromwell protested peacefully in front of his place. No, just listen. You're calling people liar and you want to die.
No, we have no evidence.
Cromwell protested for 2 months and he ended up dead. Mr. Waddle, just on the newscast.
You cannot blame the former.
No, I'm saying, you say you want to die. I'm just telling you.
All right.
Propaganda.
Brian.
Mr. Waddle is dead.
Just
being a journalist. You want to call people
Brian Collins are dead lies and not thinking lies.
Those are lies.
And just propagator.
Brian,
stop.
And it's about time somebody tell him that he's a thinking dirty liar.
I'd rather be experienced for this forum. For this gentleman to
and if
abuse
Brian wants to do somebody,
I know Brian.
I don't know him.
Brian,
Gentlemen, We have to control of the show.
Right.
Listen.
Control that.
Brian, please.
You cannot have that guy in your show lying all the time.
Yeah, but
Brian,
You gotta stop inviting him on your show.
Brian,
He can lie,
Brian.
he lie.
We don't have.
Brian,
You don't know what two big liar.
Cleveland, let me talk to him.
Yeah, but Brian, everybody has a space.
Brian.
Everybody has a
He
right.
doesn't have an
In
opinion.
fact,
He just
you know what, Brian, you know what I say about you?
behind him.
Okay.
Prejudice,
And
because
he's
he
he
was
was
speaking
on the
English
show last night saying
on the
that
PVP side,
Region
but you
3
heard the
gets
voice.
with their vote.
And jump on it
And
because
not
it
there
shows
is not a
that
single
you are
line
not
against
independent.
any
You're
vote of
jolly
any
prejudiced.
person from
You're
Region 3.
very prejudiced.
Please
Brian,
stop.
That's my
Brian,
opinion. You're
Brian,
very prejudiced. You're not independent.
Brian's
very
view,
prejudiced.
Brian's view, Brian, with the Brian,
jump on Dr. Rose, but you thought it was me. The man is prejudiced. So, came in with a prejudice. You came in with a prejudice.
Brian,
Prejudice.
wait, Brian,
Prejudice.
Prejudice, man, we can't do this.
Prejudice.
We can't do this.
Prejudice.
Well, okay, leave, but
Prejudice.
we can't.
Prejudice.
We can't do this. We can't do this.
Prejudice.
Brian here.
Robert Rosa.
Okay,
Lion Robert Rosa.
listen to man.
Prejudice.
Brian.
Studio.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not even riled up. I'm not even riled up because I'm just
You're lying. Cumberland is dead. Waddle is dead.
Let's stop. Let's have another discussion. Because out there, everybody's getting hot and bothered too. Right? Let's stop, please. Gentlemen, if we don't stop the cross-talking, I'll have to mute your mics. I'm sorry. Let's go back to Brian. My question specifically
I have
to
a
you
question for
is
Brian.
that you are driving around the city. Granger and Jagdeo have both appealed to people to be calm. Granger has said to people that do not celebrate as much, wait till tomorrow. However, that tomorrow, Brian, I'm asking you whether that tomorrow is now possible, because the international community has said we cannot verify. These results are not credible until the verification is complete. What is the man in the street saying? Forget what Brian Mack feels. What is the man on the street saying, Brian?
The man on the street wants democracy restored to the country. The man in the street wants the verification process done. People like Brian will tell you everything else. That it happened in 97.
Like Brian, I can't take your word. I would never take your word because you're prejudiced.
Brian, don't go along that road.
Prejudice.
Come on, you gotta stop that.
Prejudice.
1
You want to leave? Yeah, let's leave. Yeah. See you guys, man. It was nice being here.
This is getting sad.
Yeah. Too many prejudiced people.
Look your phone. Look your phone.
Too many prejudice, and you're lying all the time. Get out of the bloody studio, man. You're lying.
Look your phone. Look your phone.
Gentlemen,
Later,
please.
carry your phone with you.
No, please. Brian, please. You have your.
Okay, now that we got to lie out of the room, let's go back to the discussion.
No, Brian, stop. You have your strong views about things, and they have their strong views too. At the end of the day,
the problem with having that guy in your show.
No, but stop.
He came on the show last night, and nobody questioned him. He said that he is questioning Region 3, and there was 100% voters turn out, and he's unhappy.
Yeah, we heard that.
All the foreign observers were there. Nobody saw anything happen. You cannot allow him on your show to be lying.
But Brian, listen. That Brian, he represents 50% of this country. What he is saying is what they all think, and so we have to allow everybody to ventilate their own opinions, and we have to allow
he can ventilate. I don't have a problem with him ventilating. I want to ventilate against him too. I want to call him out for lying. He literally sat in his show last night. He said that there were issues in Region 3 and there were votes too many, 102% of votes, and nobody questioned him. And then I brought it up and we questioned him, and then he in his usual lying manner, he bobbed and weaved to answer.
Good. So let's not go back there, Brian. So the other question, gentlemen, yes.
Devin, could you call back Mr. Cleveland and Brian Collision so I could personally apologize to them? This is not the basis of Globespan platform. Devin.
Yeah,
Devin.
yes, they're here. They're here. They're listening.
Okay, Mr. Cleveland and Mr. Collision, first of all, I want to thank you for being a part of the Globespan platform and being a part of the discussion. The basis of Globespan platform is for everyone to express their opinion. It is not a platform for someone to be insulting anyone. This is not the purpose of Globespan. We all have to agree to disagree without calling names. I want to apologize to you as the owner of Globespan platform that some of the languages that was used against you guys tonight is not part of our plans. Now, I do know I have never met Mr. Brian Max. He does have his opinion, and I'm sure that he's very emotional on a day like today. However, he does not have the authority to be on this program and to express such opinion directly to you guys, calling you out in that manner. So I want to personally apologize to both of you. Respectfully, if you would like to stay in the program and continue the conversation, but on the same token, respectfully, I want to ask Mr. Brian Max to refrain from calling these guys out like this. It is not the basis of how we're going to be able to solve the problems and have good and intelligent discussion so we can be able to come to some mutual understanding that would benefit all in Guyana, all of us in and out of Guyana.
Great. Thank you. Well said. And, we have to move on. Thank you, Nohar, for stepping in. I have asked Devin to ensure that, we could mute mics whenever needed. Gentlemen, my apologies too. I've been trying to get on top of it. So thank you. Let's move on. The questions of the day, of course, is how do we reconcile as a people? And I think that's what we need to concentrate on. Yes, we know what is wrong on all sides. Yes, we know it's so many matters that pertain to just beyond politics and due process, as Dr. Ramharak has said. Dr. Rose, I know you've been trying to say something for a little while now. Please come in and make your point. I'm not hearing you, Dr. Rose.
How come? You're not hearing me?
No, hearing you now, yes.
Oh. The PP statement of polls and all the other 10 political parties' statement of polls coincide with what GCOM has. So it's not a question of who is right or who is wrong. If 11 parties contested the election, if 11 parties have the same statement of polls, and one, Mr. Mingo, statement of polls is outside of that, then he can be wrong. Because these statement of polls were signed by each agent and signed by returning officer from each polling place. So they're authentic. That's my. So we should not even discuss this. The statement of polls each party received, they are authentic statement of polls. They cannot be questioned because it's signed by the returning officer from each polling district. That's what I want. That's what I want to make clear.
I totally disagree with what Dr. Rose. I totally disagree with what Dr. Rose is saying. I mean, to me, there's a lot of distrust, and everything should be verified. I mean, some of the statements that because it comes from a particular institution or party, it is the truth. I mean, I would say this categorically. Out of all the elections in Guyana, probably the only one that was completely free and fair would have been 1992. All of the other elections have been tampered with, including this one. So the elections in Guyana, it's the whole process needs to be reformed, whereby we are 100% sure they are free and fair and complete from fear. No election apart from 92 has been like this in Guyana. So all those people think otherwise.
I just want to ask Brian a question. Yeah. What I said is that the statement of polls each party received, 11 parties contested the election. Their statement of polls mesh with GCOM's. You tell me that's wrong?
I'm questioning. I don't know if it's wrong. I don't know if it's
but
right.
it's signed by the returning officer.
Why should I believe you?
It's signed from the returning officer from each polling district.
I would like either myself or people who I trust to do that instead of just taking your word for it.
No, the returning officer from each polling district.
I wouldn't take anybody's word for it.
No, it's not. It's not word. It's not taking word.
I would only take the word of people that I trust word for.
Brian,
because, yeah.
the process
the
is
procedure.
No,
The
right.
procedure
One second, Doc.
Yeah.
The process is that when the count is done at the polling station, the presiding officer sign off that statement of poll. And every polling clerk there will also sign on, verifying that is the truth.
And
correct.
the agent.
The polling clerk, the agent,
Right.
the agent for the parties.
Right.
So every party who is in that polling station has an authentic, correct statement of poll. APNU has theirs, PVP has theirs, GCOM has theirs, and the other parties have theirs. Every region, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, those statements of poll were verified with all the political parties. No discrepancy. Region 4 started the process. 369 verified, no problem. Then suddenly, Mr. Mingo got sick. Then now we hear the chairman is sick, and everybody is sick because it was in my opinion, it was a cock and bull cock up within GCOM to rig Region 4 in favor of APNU, which is very, very sad. As I said, Joe mentioned earlier, if the verification Region 4 had given APNU the lead and they win the election fair and square, I would be the first to say, APNU, congratulations, you have won the election. Let's not pussyfoot in this thing here. APNU knows, the Elections Commission knows, every political party knows that the election is over and the PVP has a lead that nobody cannot beat at this point in time. APNU knows that. So when we said that they are starting a celebration, if Mr. Granger goes tomorrow and tell those people to stop, they will break him.
No, I don't think so.
I promise you that. They're going to chase him out of there because he cannot go and stop something he already started. And that is the problem we have in Guyana. President Granger should have known better. Do not start a celebration. You want to do what you want, but don't start a celebration because GCOM has not announced an official result. All official except Region 4. And that is ridiculous because GCOM wants to rig it in favor of APNU. And that must end. When it will end,
gentlemen,
the people will know.
I have to take my leave, so let me just make this last comment. You know, obviously, if you're playing a game of cricket, right? We're all playing. We know what the rules are, so we're abiding by the rules, and we're playing, and we're entering into this race or this game. Now, in the middle of this game, we can't then change the rules because we're losing to benefit the loser, right? So that's the problem. So what I'm saying here is that GCOM as an organization, the writing was on the wall. I mean, if you go back a few months back when Patterson was there, and I remember interviewing both Vincent Alexander and Robeson Ben on this same show, and both of them agree that, as we all know, GCOM is a very dysfunctional organization, right? That's an organization that should be run, as in many other countries, you know, by professionals, not political, you know, players who belong to political parties. And there were many, concerns. The concern was about the people who work for GCOM, the training, the makeup of the staff. I believe there was a person, if I remember the name correctly, Mr. Vishnu, who was a very qualified to be one of the professionals working for GCOM, and Patterson made the statement that this guy is shifty. You know, he scored very high. He got the highest score, I believe, when they administered that test to select that person. He was removed from GCOM. So I'm saying again, the writing is on the wall, but I'm going back to what I said before at the beginning of the show. We are now entering into a dangerous situation, regardless of how, I mean, we know the US, the European Union, Canada, and so on have now all called for tabulation of the statement of polls. Regardless of how that turned out, I'm very uncomfortable, very uneasy about the situation that is developing, because you have one half of the population has been told already that, okay, you've won. And you have the other half who are saying, well, you know, we have the statement of poll and we have all the evidence here. So it is a situation that is going to be evolving. And I think, you know, as I said before also, we do have a responsibility, you know, to say the right things, to ease the tensions. But I'm not very optimistic. I have to say that very honestly. I'm not very optimistic about how these events are going to play out tomorrow.
Understood. Thank you, Doc, for being on the program with us, and we certainly look forward to your insights as we continue to analyze what is happening in Guyana. To the viewers out there, yes,
Thank you.
thank you, and have a good
Okay,
night to
Doc.
you and the family. Gentlemen, your thoughts on the points raised by Dr. Ramharat.
I didn't hear everything, but I want to say I expect better sense will prevail tomorrow. People would stay calm overnight. Leaders should step up, come to the fore, and address their constituencies to believe in the process and allow GCOM to do its work.
I echo what Mr. Nanjalal said, that, look, Guyana's come of age. You don't think people are going to go and revolt, rebel, or create violence. But I'm saying, if that should be the case, then innocent lives will be lost. And for what? A political party? People will be put in jail. For what? A political party? Something people don't understand. You commit a crime now, and as soon as the police lock you up, you regret everything you did after. But at the same time, you're not thinking. So if the youths of Guyana, those are the people I'm concerned with, I don't want to see any one of them put in jail for a political party or for politics. I don't see none of them put in. I prefer them to go and if they're starving, you go and steal to feed your belly and you put in jail. Okay, fine, but don't fight for no political party. Also, don't take weapons to shoot anybody because you're going to be killed. And I'm appealing to all the mothers and fathers of those youths. If there's any shift or any change, keep your youths at home. They might go out there, they might not return. You might have to put them in a casket or a coffin. Keep your youths at home. That is what I don't want to see. Innocent kids being slaughtered because they're being misled or being brainwashed to support this and to go out and do this for a party. It isn't worth it.
Doc, I think Doc speak there like a father to a son and a daughter. But the reality is, people will die for what they believe in. It has happened throughout history. People are locked up. I've heard stories of Dr. Jagan being thrown into prison because of what he did. Nelson Mandela was thrown into prison because of what he believed in. Martin Luther King was thrown into prison because of what he believed in. The thing is, unless you stand up for what you believe, nothing will change, because guess what? The masters always think they can do what they want. Unless you tell them, sir, I'm sorry, we decide also what we want. And the question should be that Guyanese, because we are so divided along racial and ethnic lines, it's difficult to get the Africans and the Indians to come together to protest for good governance. That's our problem. So when the PP is in office, guess what? The African Guyanese protest. When the African Guyanese is in office, the PP, the Indian protest. That cannot work, because you're not working cohesion, you're working in ethnicity. That kind of model, I don't think Guyana will get far with it.
Look, I just want to say this quickly. Yesterday, I was with an immigration officer. One of my students, 21 years old, doing extremely well in the master's program, was placed in front of the immigration officer because he committed 2 crimes before he attended college, but during college he committed a 3rd crime. And they asked me for a character letter, his parents, I wrote the letter. The immigration officer wants to see me. I spoke at length on behalf of this kid. He's from Guyana, he's from Ichuni. Bright kid in the class. But guess what? When all was said and done, the immigration told him, Dr. Rose, you made a valiant effort to help this young man, but the rule is we have to deport him. I've never seen a young man, 21 years old, cried until he fell to the ground. His parents cried because he's going back to Guyana. They took him away, they will not see him again. So what I'm saying to you, he committed a crime, but now he regret it. And he'll be out of this country. You know. So you don't let your kids get into those areas again. I pleaded with the immigration officer to give him a chance. Bright kid in school, he will graduate in June of this year, but the guy looked at me and says, you did well, but the rule is the rule, the law is the law. 3 strikes and you're out. And he's gone.
Brian Collison, you were going to say, but Brian, I just want to say this to your credit and to Cleveland's credit. Look, you know, we're sorry for the little crosstalk we had earlier. I mean, I have been trying to interject all the time, but not getting through. But you know what? It speaks to how things are presently in Guyana. Everybody's temper is up, everybody's tense, everybody feels somebody is cheating them, whichever side of the fence they're on. And credit to you and Cleveland for being calm. I know that you got a little bit upset, but credit to you both, because you know what, at the end of the day, it's our level heads that will make the process continue. Brian, you wanted to say something.
All right, thank you for those words. In fact, I think a lot of people in Guyana, I have what is called an open mind. I can debate anybody on almost any issue. And I think that's one of the problems with the people in Guyana. Their minds are 99.9% of the people, their minds are not open. So when they debate issues, if they don't like what you say, they resort to name calling and all kinds of low stuff, you know. There are many things with many of the people I disagree with. Like even my good friend over here, he has some very good points about shared governance, inclusive governance. Even some of those things, I do not agree with them for Guyana. You know why? My view is you may have shared governments between two corrupt governments. Those, you know, is an assumption, but it's a possibility. What we need is rule of law, accountability. So when people do stuff, they mustn't be sheltered by ethnicity. We need mechanisms to remove people who are corrupt, but all of those things are missing. We need to transform most of the political parties.
You have all those, it's not being implemented.
It's not being implemented. So all of those things are needed. It's not a simple thing as just sit. And the people in power do not want to implement them.
You need attitudinal transformation.
Yeah, the minds are not open, and they vote for the same people who do not want to implement many of these measures. Right. So we have a long, hard road ahead.
Right, and I agree. This is what Charles is saying too, that you know what, at the end of the day, the solution is not easy. The solution requires everybody to do constitutional change, to change the system of power brokering.
And let me add one more thing, even for GCOM. GCOM is completely compromised. Even the international community says, you know why? Because you have two political parties, so it is not a matter, you cannot even trust them because one side compete and they tamper. The other side compete, they tamper. So everything you have to basically question. You cannot accept anything every step of the way because it is, the country is corrupt, people are bribed, and you cannot trust almost any institution in the country. Those are my views. Some people may not agree, but those are my views.
Yeah, Cleveland, before you step in, so let us you know, refocus on the happenstances for today. Look, what is now needed is that when we get up in the morning, we're all seeing that GCOM has restarted or is restarting the verification process. The international community has now, and Dr. Rose can correct me if I'm wrong here, the international community has now put themselves on a pedestal, and the next step, now they're already said plainly the results are not credible, and they have put themselves on a pedestal, and now the next step is to discredit the government. The next step is to basically say to the government, look, we're going to take sanctions out against you, and we'll call on the world to think on you. So, you know, the thing is that while good heads have to prevail, there are the real international things that can happen with us if we don't do what is right. Leland.
Cleveland.
Cleveland, sorry. Cleveland, sorry.
I know. It's been a long day. And Leland is not here tonight. Anyway, are we talking about closing remarks here?
No.
In general. Well, I reiterate what I just said earlier, that I'm looking forward to due process to prevail, and that GCOM will tomorrow get back into action, resume the count.
Hoping.
Well, I'm hoping, to use your words. I'm hoping they get back into action, resume the count. I don't know where they fell off the wagon, but I know Guyanese both at home and abroad we are all expecting a free and fair and democratic process to prevail. I think we have had a number of years of, I would say, fits and starts, trial and error, trying to achieve that elusive goal of being a cohesive and a united society. It has been testy, and predominantly testy when it comes to elections. And it emanates from a position of distrust. And I don't want to repeat myself, but this is what the problem is, and unless we resolve that problem of ethnic polarization, that distrust is going to keep rising to the fore, because the state, capturing the state, has always been the prize. Because from the state, everything emanates. Job, favors, patronage, investment, perks, give away whatever you want, and not be accountable. And this is where I come into Brian's lane. Accountability. One of the major lacking things in Guyana. Institutions are, I would say, archaic, old institutions. Laws are not catching up. For example, we have oil now. I'm not even sure the laws are current laws in place currently can work for us to the benefit of our society. So these are some of the major problems. We should be able to get into joint ventures with other countries to this level of development. But I don't know if we are ready there. So these are some of my comments at this stage. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to concur with my friend Brian here. Guyana is indeed very corrupt. Nothing happens in Guyana unless you can give a bribe. And the thing about institutions, look at our neighbor next door, Trinidad. Trinidad have independent institutions that works. I think Guyana, we have commission, the Elections Commission, the Police Service Commission, the Public Service Commission, and all these other commissions. Guess who appoints them? The president. When the president does that, they're loyal to the president. Look, the president recently appointed the commissioner of police and 4 deputies. Who will he be loyal to? To the person who appoint them. They should be loyal to the country and the rule of law, not to the president. So unless we have constitutional reform, where maybe if we have 5 members of every commission, maybe you have 20 names submit to Parliament. Let Parliament give approval for these people by a 60% vote. So there is no ethnic cleavage to who goes in the commission or not. The professionals who will get things done, not afraid of the politicians, will make decisions. And if now there is a break of the law, guess what? The police commissioner issued the order to arrest even the president or the prime minister, because he or she will have that authority, independent of politics. And unless our institution can change to be independent, we can talk again until the cows come home. We're going to keep saying this for the next 50 years. We'll all be dead and gone, and Guyana will still be limping along, hoping that we can change, and we can change. Our problem is get our politicians, put them ass in a room, put them in the damn prison to sit there, work it out. When you're done, then come out of prison. Maybe that might help. Senator Mazaruni.
So Charles, thank you for that. Dr. Rose.
Yes, I want to say this. Guyana was a parliamentary democracy until 1970, when it became a republic. What Barnum did then, he formed what is called a hybrid government, a republic and a parliamentary democracy. He removed himself as prime minister, became the executive president, and at the same time, he removed the titular president, who's supposed to be responsible, constitutionally responsible to ask any government to form a government which is elected. Guyana depends on the chancellor. Indeed, this was copied from the United States because it is the Chief Justice that swears the president in. But in the United States, you have institutions that are strong enough and powerful enough that no one can violate. But so Barnum did what he had to do, and I give him praise for that. But the PP should amend this constitution way back when. You have an executive president, but you could have a titular president that in the case of an election, that president have the constitutional right to call upon the party that won the most seats to form a government. In this case, the Chief Justice or the Chancellor can't do it. So look in the Caribbean. We have never had such a problem when it comes to elections. People lost, the Governor General or the whosoever in Trinidad, the president, they ask the party, the party with the most seats to form a government. That Governor General and that president in Trinidad has that constitutional right to do so. You just have to look at the constitutional laws of these countries and it tells you that. But Ghana don't have this. Ghana have a chancellor. And the chancellor don't have no constitutional power just to swear in the government. That's all. And this is where I said Bonham did what he had to do. He copied the United States. But when you have an hybrid government, you have to make sure you put the rules are there so that no one could violate it. In this case here, the party with the most seats or win the most votes will be asked to form a government. Canada has a governor general. The party with the most seats, the governor asks them to form the government. And this is throughout the Caribbean. So we never had no government or no party that don't want to give up power in the Caribbean.
That is not true, Rose.
So, gentlemen.
No, what I'm saying, Artichoke fine, but what I'm saying, we don't have that system back.
I have a question for you guys. Any one of you feel free to comment. That while we are talking about law, we need to remember that this is from Vidya Ramkishon, that Granger and his cabinet would have created the problem we are now in because they failed to respect the Constitution they swore to uphold and failed to adhere to CCJ's rulings and stuff like that in relinquishing power and appointment of GCOM chairman and stuff like that. Your comments, because what viewers are saying is that this thing is not now, it's been ongoing. And yes, I know constitutional change is going to make it happen, but we don't have that presently.
All right.
Yes, Brian.
You see, in addition to what that caller's questioning, there are some other issues in Guyana. We have a combination of the state that is just too powerful and the state that can dole out economic resources to particular groups. So it's a terrible combination of state having too much power and that state can just decide who's going to get what, So all of those things we have to deal with so that the state is not so powerful, but all the people in charge throughout our history, they have never even made a small attempt to give up the power that they get. None of them have been large enough to rise above some of those little issues.
You are right, and I tell you what else. I remember, Charles, you would have been part of this process because you were hosting shows on this panel. I remember that week after week, we had one politician or the other on the various talk shows that we had. And one of the questions we asked them, are they willing to re-examine presidential power? Neither of the two larger parties were willing to even consider the concept. All the newer parties said, yes, we need to curb presidential power. Because remember, the president is immune to the law under the current system. Gertie.
Well, it's not really true that the president is immune to the law. During his tenure in office, he has to conduct himself a certain way. But if the president goes out there and take a gun and shoot someone, he will be charged. He's not immune to that under this constitution in Guyana.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about administrative.
Administrative rights, yes. He cannot be charged for any of his actions he performed in government. That's where the immunity comes in. But because the president, he can do anything he wants, and no. Within his administration, he can make, as Brian said, he can give Brian $1 billion a year in a contract. Go and give Brian another $1 billion. No, he can't be charged for his actions as a president, administratively. But after he can be charged. But if he goes out there and kills someone willfully, he can be charged. The immunity stops within the framework of the government. So I just want to make that clear to people.
Referring back to the question from the viewer, yes, I think history will record that President Granger has been the only president who has flaunted the Constitution with impunity, time and time and time again. And because we don't have the checks and balances in place, nobody can tell the president, you need to step down. If we had a sound judicial commission, for instance, maybe that commission could have said to the president, this is what you will do. If not, you will be removed from office. What saddens me is that, and I said this many times in this program, is that when Burnham had the referendum in 1978 for the new constitution, and then we had the new constitution in 1980, the PPP was jumping on the rooftop saying that this is a constitution that they will change. This is no good for no one. And as you rightly said, when Dr. Jagan became president in 92, no, it's okay now. The constitution don't have to be changed. That is hypocrisy to the highest order. And if the PPP had taken the step, if the PPP had taken the step to rewrite the constitution broad across Guyana, we would not be here today talking what we're talking about.
I want to interject because I don't feel that is I'm not calling you out. I don't feel it's an accurate representation. What had happened is that they set up a constitutional review committee, of which I think Ralph Ramkaran
in 2000
and some others were a main part of. That constitutional committee of the two main parties, this is from both PPP and PNC then, they basically got together and they made legislative proposals to the House, and the areas of the Constitution that could have been changed without going for a referendum, those were the areas that they agreed to move on. So it is not that the PPP government refused to change the Constitution. The Constitution was changed with the amalgamation of both parties.
Dr. Bahadio, everything is within context. The PPP only agreed after the PNC had massive street protests. And then they demanded the Constitution be changed. Don't forget, in the old Constitution, not the old, this Constitution, the opposition leader was called the minority leader. You remember that? The PNC said, no, I'm not minority leader, I am now the opposition leader. But when it was the PPP in opposition, they were minority leader. It was after the PPP the PNC went in the streets, the PPP was forced to set up that commission. And then it was kind of sugar-coated because the real reform did not take place. That's why institutions are still appointed by the president. The president still have immunity. The president still is elected by a list of electors, and so on and so on. Because guess what? It benefits the PPP now in office as it did the PNC in office. And these two people, as Mr. Ramkaran said earlier, in that reform, both parties refused to dramatically change our constitution because they like what it looks like.
So Brian,
I would agree somewhat with Charles, but I would disagree on one aspect of it where he said Mr. Granger is violating the Constitution.
Oh, without doubt.
No, let me explain to you. It's a very inconsistent statement because the Constitution gave him unprecedented power.
Yeah, but
so,
not violated.
No. It's not going to be violated because whatever he does is not illegal. So you can take it to the highest court, they will not rule against it because you can't violate something that you're not subject to. So that's the first issue. But the other issue too is that our electoral process is so flawed too. Most of the other countries in the Caribbean, the elections are run by independent institutions and they're clean, somewhat, cleaner than ours. Ours has never really been too clean and is always replete with all kinds of problems. So we have a lot of power in the presidency and a flawed electoral process. So we have a recipe for a lot of problems and we're dealing with all of those things,
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Rose, what's your comment on the constitutional reform thing?
My comment is that the Constitution is broadly written. It can be interpreted this way by one judge, this way by another judge. No, that's not true. If this Constitution had articles to define what is written here, like the American Constitution, it's very, very difficult to interpret it or misleading, unless a judge is really biased and it will go take the appeal process. So when you rewrite the Constitution, you just don't only rewrite it and leave it there. You put articles, leave that as a framework to make sure you define the parameters of that Constitution.
And preamble to it.
Right. So everybody says rewrite it, but you rewrite it, it's broad, they're going to misread. the president can say, give me these powers. No, but if you have articles, the U.S. Constitution, I think, is 27, 28 articles. If you rewrite that, amendments, articles and amendments, but if you put amendments in it, then those amendments will stop all this charade that is going on with this Constitution. So when one talks about rewriting the Constitution, which I told Moses Nagamutu, you have to rewrite it with amendments. You just can't write and leave it broad frame like that. It's going to be misinterpreted. Put amendments, and that will define the parameters of a Constitution, where you can argue for or against.
My comment, Dr. Mahal, is huh?
No, okay.
Oh, okay. I think, well, I support everything, or most everything this gentleman has been saying, but I think initially, before we get down to reforming the Constitution itself, I think we need to start looking at presidential powers, question of immunity. And to a large extent, if you're going to reform the Constitution, I think we should be separating the election of the president from the rest of the constituency, so the legislature. Separate. Because everything evolves out of the power of the presidency. And once you capture the state, which we've all been saying, with this current Constitution, we got problems to follow.
But I will say this quickly.
The president is the chairman of cabinet.
Right. But I will say this quickly. As much as everyone comes to rewrite the Constitution, I will say Guyana should put its interest first in getting voting machines in that country. This is too lawless what's going on here. The economy actually grinding to a halt as we speak for 4 or 5 days. This is too lawless.
Not only that, I think for the machine.
That the Russians attempted to hack the manual process. What will happen?
No, stop right there. I was to make a comment on that. The Russian embassy said in a statement issued at 5 o'clock that they don't know of any Russian in the country trying to do anything, and they have not of any deportation.
I hope you don't believe that.
The Russian embassy issued a statement. So Cameron should come to us and say, no, you're wrong. Give the names of the people I deported.
But talking about voting.
So Charles, 1 minute.
Yeah.
So gentlemen, we are going to wrap up our program now. It's getting late. It's after 10:30 in Guyana.
Right.
And as you know, we have another long day tomorrow. So I'm going to ask you to, in what you're going to say now, to consider it also to bring your thoughts to a point, and we will say goodnight to our viewers after we go through the round with you all.
I think
anyone go first.
Okay. So Brian, you can go.
Okay. I believe in certain things, rule of law, fairness. I believe in giving each one space so that they can express themselves to their core beliefs. I mean, each person's belief might differ significantly. So I don't think, a lot of people sometimes they think some of their beliefs are absolute right. Nothing's absolute. It's absolute for one person, it's relative to another person. So because we share different experiences, history, race, and all of those things. So my core thing about Guyana, rule of law, a lot of education, capitalism.
Respect for the rule of law.
Right. And we have to find mechanism to end the excessive corruption in the country and being able to have people accountable so that we can remove
I want some money in my pocket.
officials, Those are some of my core beliefs. So I can pass it over to Charles.
Thank you.
I have never been, and I guess I am very abnormal in this context. I have never been a supporter of the PNC nor the PPP throughout my life. I have always supported the third party force, and I was hoping that in this election, that the third party would have made an inroad, that whoever would have won the election, the third party would have given that notch to ensure we have a good governance. Having said that, 95% of the population vote for the PPP or the PNC. That's a fact. My appeal to the PPP and the PNC, we have gone through this thing now for donkey years. It's about time now you guys sit together. The people has voted for the two of you. Whoever forms the government, don't look at the opposition as they have no power. They do have a big constituent. Sit at the table. Let us get things done. Work. Ensure institutions work. You're a CEO, Yog. I was a CEO. If you build your team and they all functions well, your job is so much easier because they know what they're doing and they're doing it right. If you want to keep all the power to you, guess what? You'll be having sleepless nights. And I think that is what killed Dr. Jagan, because he was thinking too much of the country and he got a heart attack. Unless we have our politicians sit down as gentlemen and gentle ladies and determine that these are some of the things that we need to change, and change it now for the betterment of our country, not the betterment of the party, Guyana will move forward. If they don't do that, you and I have no power now. The election is over. The government, whoever from the government has the authority. I'm appealing to that government, whoever that government is, work with the opposition parliament and get things done. Put Guyana first. If Guyana is first, Guyana will move miles ahead. But we need to put Guyana first. And I really pray and hope that they will hear our call. Thank you. Oh, and we have food again here tonight. Sorry about you.
I want to say this. I've lived in Montreal all my life, Canada. I was never interested in no politics in the Caribbean. I came from Guyana at a young age, was never interested in no politics. Burnham came to Montreal, never interested to go and see him. But I came to the States at the turn of the century. Guys like these get me involved in politics here. For the AFC and now and I'm saying, what am I doing? Look where I'm spending my time. I spend my time writing books and articles, not in politics in Guyana. It's too far. But I want to say this though. It was nice getting involved in Guyana's politics, and that led me to open doors for me to get involved in all the Caribbean politics. What you guys did not know, in 2008, I went down to Brazil to take part in the Brazilian elections there. Was sent by an organization here, the Ford Foundation. So when I look at the Brazilian elections, Brazil is such a vast country, I say, what am I doing here? You in one poll, you get 10,000 others. What can you observe? But let me close by saying this. John Wycliffe, the famous author and a statesman, wrote in his translation of the Bible, he said, the Bible of the people, by the people, and for the people. This is what we need in Guyana as a government. Not a government where the people in power say, it's my time, it's my power, I'm going to win. And Lincoln, in his Gettysburg Address, he said, this democracy shall not perish from the earth. Talking about American democracy. I don't believe Guyana's democracy is going to deteriorate any further than what it is today. It can only build and become better and better and better in the future. So I adhere to Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, to John Wycliffe and these people. If we can try and help these people fix that country, it will be marvelous. But are they going to listen to anybody, whosoever is in office? I don't think so. Because as Lord Acton says, power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And with that said, I think something has to be done in order to curb the power of these politicians in Guyana. Do you know the Prime Minister of Trinidad don't have as much power as the President of Guyana? The same goes for the Prime Minister of Barbados and all those countries. If you look at the Constitution, you see how the powers are being defined. The President of Trinidad also has a hybrid government. Parliamentary democracy, he has certain powers. He is the one who appoints commission. Yeah, she, right, that's right. She does that. In Barbados is the same thing. In Jamaica is the same thing. As a matter of fact, there is a commission in Jamaica to appoint commissions. And they will make the recommendations to the Prime Minister, and he approved it. Just 2 years ago, that commission recommended that this person be the police commissioner of Jamaica. And unless they want to approve it, and when the entire body came down on him, he had no choice, he had to go and approve it.
Institutional changes. Yeah, strong institutions.
So that's what we need in Guyana. Strong institutions to make sure that the politicians listen. Because when they come to you during campaign, they tell you all the nicest things, make all the promises. When they finish, they're gone, they don't care about you. That's what I'm saying. It's like a dictatorship. They rule as a dictator. And that goes for most governments around the
electoral
world.
system is also flawed. They never said it's perfect. We're not even sure if if the votes are correct and all. It's a lot of problems.
Okay.
Not even sure about the votes. Tampering and all kind of stuff.
We're not hearing you.
Yog, we're not hearing you.
Cleveland, any final comments from you? You didn't get to voice your final comments.
He said the debate is.
I think I did mine already. I'm satisfied. Gentlemen here.
All right. So,
gentlemen represent us well.
Good. So let me remind everyone out there that the situation in Guyana with the elections is that the international observers have declared that the results thus far is not credible because they have not been verified by GCOM. The international observers have insisted on President Granger to ensure that the process of verification resumes. So tomorrow we are hoping that when we wake, we're going to see GCOM undertake a resumption of the verification process. I know we had quite a few more persons to call us tonight, but in the background you may see some videos rolling from Devon. No audio, of course. That GCOM's building has basically been is now under the protection, quote unquote, of the armed forces. Unfortunately, at this stage, we are made to understand that everybody was asked to vacate the premises. This is in terms of the observers who are asked to vacate the premises so that the SOPs and everything else is left there. What we do know, though, is that copies of the SOPs are with the various political parties and with the observers. So we certainly looking ahead for tomorrow's announcement now. I mean, it could have all been finished and done with today had the process commenced early this morning. We're looking forward for that. Viewers out there, as of now, we have no official declaration of results for Region 4. Guyana's election remains uncalled, or it is not a position of definitive assurance as to who forms the next government. And we will await tomorrow's return to the democratic process in GCOM. Ladies and gentlemen, and to our viewers out there, please stay tuned. As we get more feeds into the night or tomorrow, we're going to come on live. Let me say thanks to Nohar Singh, Devin Bisoon, Kumar, and everyone who made tonight's show a possibility and a success. To our panel members in studio, thank you all for being here. To those that came onto the program, thank you all. To everyone out there, stay home, stay safe, do some prayers for Guyana. God bless you all. Good night, everyone.